It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott is here. I am here. Richard Campbell has the week off. We'll talk about Microsoft's earnings. They came out late last week during the show, but we have a kind of a more granular look at what's happening. Paul's favorite gaming laptop, a quick review, and then ChatGPT search. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 906, recorded Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. Turnip Boy robs a bank. It's time for Windows Weekly! Yay! The show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. Hello, you winners. Hello, you dozers. We bring them both together for this fabulous program. But we will not bring Richard Campbell together with us this week because he's in...
Yep.
Where is he? Paul Thurrott's here from Thurrott.com. Thank goodness. Because I was thinking, if Paul didn't show up, could I do Windows Weekly? And then I thought, no, I couldn't.
Right. I'd send you the notes. You know,
I could read them. Thank goodness Paul Thurrott is here. Rich is going to take the week off. We will not have a brown liquor pick, but we will have something for you at the end of the show. How are you, Paul?
Pretty good. Yeah. Just an average Wednesday.
Like any other?
Can't think of anything.
Although I am sad I'm going to have to retire this mug in a couple of months. Yeah, okay, well, that happens.
Yeah, I'll miss sleeping soundly. I'll also miss reading the news. I kind of enjoy doing that my whole life except for that 4-year period there. So
I'm not watching the news. I might read it just to kind of keep up with what's going on, but I thought, Lisa and I both said, yeah, that's it on the 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
I'm done with that. So anyway, I hope you all had a wonderful election day. I'm glad you all voted, right? You all voted, and America's spoken, and that's what happens in a democracy.
Unfortunately, they've spoken, but they have a stroke, and you can barely understand them. So, that's what happened. But
hey, you're the one from Pennsylvania, dude. I blame you.
I might have been the first person who voted in this entire country. I voted back in September.
Yeah, I voted right away, too. Nevertheless, you know what? We're gracious in loss as we are in victory, and
just like they were,
Yeah, just like they were. And so there you go.
Jeez.
So enough of that. Let's get on with Windows. What's going on in the Windows world?
So actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a step back and look at earnings just a little bit more because we glossed over it last week. It had just happened during the show. We didn't really have time to go through it.
No, we didn't get to go through it that much, yeah.
Yeah, so this didn't make it through to the notes that everyone has in the Discord, sorry. But if you rewind the clock to a better day, last Wednesday. I don't know what I'm doing. So Microsoft announced their earnings, right? And I was really looking forward to this one because back in, I think it was July, August, they announced that they were reshuffling the way that they report business segments, certain parts of the businesses. And the big one for me was that the commercial revenues from Windows were going into the Microsoft 365 group, which makes sense. It's part of that group, which is under productivity and business processes. Whereas the rest of Windows is under more personal computing. And if you think back, and I can't even remember the time frame, it was several years, many years maybe, I don't know. Back when Mary Jo was doing the show, we would do these quarterly shows about earnings. And there was a period there where all three of the core or the upper top level Microsoft business units were roughly even, right? It was 11 billion a quarter. It was 13 billion a quarter. It was pretty steady for a while. And then Microsoft did their cloud thing, right? Which is where I sort of checked out on the broader part of the company. But that's when the part of the company that has Azure, which is intelligent cloud, started taking off. And of course, productivity and business processes as well because of Microsoft 365. So those two businesses were growing bigger and faster than more personal computing for quite a while. And then we hit this quarter. So this quarter, we've shuffled revenue out of more personal computing. So it should be smaller. The kind of thing that's standing in the way of that a little bit is Activision Blizzard, right? So year over year, Microsoft now has Activision Blizzard. They did not 1 year ago this quarter. So that helps even it out a little bit. I guess I'll have to look next quarter. We'll see what that looks like. But
there is one more political note I have to throw in.
Good.
That with the new administration coming in January, you could say goodbye to Lena Khan.
Yes.
And probably say goodbye to antitrust regulations, so that the Blizzard Activision acquisition, which was such a fight for Microsoft,
is probably fine. Yeah, isn't
it? It's still kind of alive. Didn't the DOJ appeal?
They appealed it internally, which is a really I know. Wherever anyone thinks I may fall politically, I have big problems with Lisa Khan and the current, actually, she's the FTC, right? So, FTC, isn't she?
Lena Khan's FTC, yeah, and the DOJ. Yeah. But
I don't like her.
What happens is the FTC makes a decision. The DOJ is tasked with prosecuting it.
Oh, okay. It could be. Yeah.
So
they decide between them, I think.
Thing.
Yeah. Sometimes one or the other will do it. Yeah.
Right.
So there are multiple antitrust cases in the United States against multiple big tech companies. Things that have already occurred, like the Google breakup order, that's going to progress. Like that will still, doesn't mean they're going to be broken. Actually, it wasn't a breakup order. I'm sorry. Guilty verdict.
Trump was very much anti-Google. So I think that's going to be.
Yeah, that one's going to stick around.
It'll be interesting how much Elon Musk has in this, because I mean he got a shout out at Mar-a-Lago.
Maybe there could be an executive order that makes Twitter look like it's a good business again. I don't know.
Oh, it is. Are you kidding? It is a good business again. Are you kidding? It's the best business right now. But I do think that Elon will have something to say in terms of anti-tech regulation and anti-tech prosecution. We'll see.
I think some of it's going to stick and some of it's going to just disappear. That's my uneducated take on that. But
it's a little late for Microsoft because Activision Blizzard is done, but they won.
It's done. I think that one we can just not worry about that. Yeah. It's fine.
Do you think though Microsoft, given a free hand, would look at other acquisitions, especially in gaming?
No. It's going to take them such a long time to recover from this. That'll be that's part of the earnings recap. But every quarter since they acquired Activision Blizzard, there's an enormous overhead to Activision Blizzard, right? So they contribute revenues, but it's effectively an operating loss. And so short term, it has not been paying off, right? But at least, if you're a Game Pass customer, it's really paid off. It's been great. Let me just pause for a moment to recover that. So we'll see. Anyway, there's a lot going on there, but next quarter will be interesting again because it's a clearer year-over-year take. But for now, what we have is a lot of revenues from Windows went into Microsoft 365, which is productivity and business processes. And that is now the biggest business unit at Microsoft, right? That was number 2 forever. So 28.3 billion in revenues. Intelligent Cloud, which is Azure, is 24.1, second place. And then more personal computing is 13.2. I'm just going to rough this one out a little bit, but I'm going to say if it wasn't for Activision Blizzard, probably 10 to 11 billion. So that,
really?
Yeah.
So this is such a turnaround for a company that Windows drove for so many years.
Yep.
Windows is now in the third most profitable division.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, I don't know the exact dates, but if you think back, Microsoft in the 90s was the Windows company to the outside world, but really it was Windows and Office, wasn't it? I mean, even in the 90s. And Office was always interesting because it ran on the Mac too. Not that was, 50% of the revenues, but it wasn't long before.
Office become a big part of their
Office portfolio. Was the number one business at Microsoft for a long time. And then they added server.
I mean, it must have been in the 80s because I remember they had a mouse for Word before the Macintosh came out.
Yeah, well, Windows didn't take off till the 90s, and so I don't know the time frame, but
some kind of in parallel with Windows.
Well, I mean, and then Office as an actual product, as a bundle, didn't really exist until, again, I'm just guessing here, but probably early mid-90s, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's about right.
Something like that.
Came out, yeah.
So I would say by the turn of the century, as old timers say, Office was bigger than Windows. And then we had the 3 core businesses at that time were server, Windows, and Office, right?
So this isn't so different, really.
But it's weird how most of the things that are in more personal computing, it's almost like the and other stuff bucket. We don't really know what to call this stuff. Most of the Windows revenues that are left come from PC makers. So it's almost like a business thing in a way. Microsoft is trying to transition Xbox obviously to cloud services and to subscription services. So, there's some possibilities there. And then there's Surface. You know what Surface is? You can hear the flushing sound every quarter when we talk about Surface, unfortunately. So yeah, kind of an interesting quarter. I did not spend a lot of time looking at the cloud stuff. I actually kind of don't really care, frankly. But I did look at AI, and of course I looked at the the consumer-oriented stuff.
AI is in the intelligent cloud division.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Intelligent. I see the word intelligent.
It's intelligent. Yeah, it's Apple Intelligent is what
I'm
it is.
not so, but they are.
Microsoft loves to use vague accounting terms, right? Yeah. And things that I don't know, aren't really verifiable. So, for example, their big announcement this quarter was that their AI business, which is not a business, is on track to surpass an annual revenue run rate. Run rate's a term I've not heard in a while from Microsoft, of $10 billion, which means that the revenues it generated in this most recent quarter were approaching 1/4 of $10 billion or 2.5 billion. So their revenues were approximately 2 to 2.5 billion is what they're sort of saying. And they spent 19 billion on it. So not an accountant, but
wow.
If my math is correct.
That's a little upside down.
And the thing is, the revenues are going up, but so is the cost of AI. They have spent more and more every quarter. Every quarter they've said, we're going to keep doing this. It's going to keep going up. In addition to old kind of familiar terms like run rate, Microsoft also introduces new terms, right? So they like agenic, you'll recognize as a term. All of a sudden you see everywhere people are talking about agenic things.
Agentic.
Agentic, yes.
Oh, okay. Because otherwise it's a little bit like, it sounds like eugenic, which we don't want.
Angelic.
Angelic, okay, but
is okay. Eugenic, not so much.
Agentic, yeah.
Although, it's a new era, so we'll see. One of the terms they talk about is signals, right? And they're basing their investments in AI on signals. Signals being a group of signals that they get from customers, from the market, where they think people might spend money on, or where they need to have certain assets like CPUs and GPUs and things like that in the data center and so forth. So somehow 2.5 or 2 to 2.5 billion in revenues justifies approximately 20 billion in spending. And if we do this long enough, we'll be profitable. Or something. We have no way to know how fast the revenues are growing. We can, I haven't, but we could go back and do the math on how fast the spending is going up. But you can expect them to spend roughly 20 billion a quarter for the next year, building out this infrastructure, unless something changes dramatically, right? So that's where that's at. This was considered a huge success, by the way.
Well,
if you go back,
this is how it works these days, which is
I know
you're kind of counting on the future. Do you how long are they going to have to lose?
Yep. So this is the Spaceballs question, as I call it. What you're asking is, when will then be now? Yeah. And my answer is soon. No, I don't know. We don't know. There's no way to know, right? Yeah. I mean, Microsoft is getting signals from space or something. I guess they have some idea, but we'll see.
Isn't it more dependent on the technology improving than it is on whether customers want it?
Yeah, and on multiple levels, because it's not just the technology that end users or customers will use to do whatever they do with AI, generative AI, whatever it is. It's also the technology behind the chips that are in data centers and whether they can be efficient and cost effective enough for this to start to make sense, whether there's going to be any real, what they call edge computing, NPU AI happening of any substance. There's no evidence of this, by the way. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. We're going to talk a lot about Intel today. And one of the big things they talked about was they didn't use the word signals, but it was basically the same message, which was they got the message from the industry, i.e. Microsoft, that they needed to move more quickly to get up to speed on this NPU stuff. And they didn't say it, but the message here was pretty clear. We spent way too much money on this and got nothing out of it. So this is the fear for AI. This is the thing Richard talks about, the trough of despair,
Right.
that we're in this kind of a bubble and everyone's excited. We're throwing money at it. And look, I have no doubt that broadly speaking, or generally speaking, the software that we use can and probably will be made better because of AI. If you look at things like tools that help you write in Word, or tools that help you create a presentation in PowerPoint, or whatever it might be, like that stuff it's nice. Does it justify the level of investment? You never heard about the Microsoft 365 team spending $19 billion in a quarter so they can make spell checking faster. I don't, I don't know. I'm maybe not the right person to even discuss this intelligently. I don't see it, but
It's the way the market's going, though. The whole market's going upside down on AI. And the presumption is that AI is going to be such a big hit sometime in the future that it's going to compensate for. I mean, I did the math wrong. They made $2.5 billion this quarter, but spent $19 billion. They're losing $16.5 billion a quarter.
See, no, they're investing 16 and a quarter. I don't know.
That's a lot to burn.
Yeah. So here's the good news. Microsoft can afford it. They, although by the way, so I would say until this quarter, they had more of a free cash flow to afford the amount they were spending. So they were basically spending cash. This quarter, they didn't make it. They were actually behind. It was the first time they've talked about it, that the free cash flow was actually less than the amount they invested in AI, to keep using that term.
So what do they do? Do they borrow against stock? What do they do to make up the difference?
There's a supermarket in the corner that has a guy in the back, and he gives them a no-interest loan.
The fig will be $12 a day. And
it would be a shame if anything happened in Nadella, if you know what I mean. No, I mean, Microsoft is the second richest company on earth.
They're doing. Yes,
and they have cash reserves as well, right? So they have tens of billions of dollars. Right. They can spend their own money. It's fine. The truth is, they could afford to do this for the foreseeable future. It's that Microsoft is a publicly held company, and at some point, shareholders and investors
and the board
and the press, are going to start asking questions. Yeah. So if you go back and listen to their earnings call, I can tell you, no one asked about Windows. Nobody asked about Office. Nobody asked about anything. Every single question was like, so if I could ask you again about how you're affording this, it seems like you're spending a lot of money on AI. How's that going? And everyone's super polite. Everyone seemed very happy with the answers they got. This is disquieting to me. I mean, they're throwing a lot of money at this.
Is it safe to say it's a bet?
Yeah.
And it's unknown how risky the bet is, but it's a bet. They're betting that AI will become the next big thing. So Google does this with its search dollars. They invest in them. They call them moonshots. Very rarely pay off.
But did they ever bet the company on a moonshot? See, the thing is, no. There's a story here that may eventually be
Are they betting
told.
the company?
Well, this is as close as that Microsoft's often used that term. They've never invested this level of money in anything. I mean, this is a great, use the term moonshot, which I know is a Google thing. For Microsoft is a moonshot. It's like, we do these things not because they're easy. We do them because they're expensive, I guess. We do them because there's only two or three companies on earth that can do it,
right.
And maybe
Apple's another one. But Apple and Meta both have tossed money down a black hole and projects by the way, that haven't delivered.
The difference between those companies, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and OpenAI, Anthropic, whoever you choose to name, is those two companies have said, this is probably not going to be worth it. Yeah. This doesn't look like it's going to make any sense. And so I sort of respect that opinion, I guess. But bet the company is a strong term. But man, are they really throwing money at this? The thing that's interesting about this to me is Satya Nadella, right? This is a guy who became CEO, I think 2014-ish. Engineer, came up through Bing, we'll overlook that, Windows Server, is a super, super, super smart guy. Seems kind of slow-moving, robotic,
He's
plotting.
A little McKinsey-esque.
Yeah, except for one thing. I don't think that's the true Nadella. I think we're seeing the true Nadella here. He was kind of pragmatically and aggressively had called all the product groups into his office when he became CEO. Make your company make sense in this new Microsoft. And most did, some didn't, some mixed, results, et cetera, et cetera. So we all kind of know that story. But one of the things he got really excited about when he first became CEO was HoloLens. And there was no justification for this. It was just, we made something cool. No one else has it. And he greenlit this thing. And we're going to go to town. We're going to make this thing happen. Something will happen. It will make sense. That never worked, right? So HoloLens is this little thing that's off in the corner. It was a research project, essentially. It became tied into the more personal computing group. Now it's part of what they call devices. So it's basically Surface plus this thing, which means it's basically Surface. But it never paid off. But he just did the same thing with AI. It was exactly the same thing from my outsider perspective, that someone came to him and said, oh my God, you got to see this. This is incredible. And he's like, we're doing it. And the amount you have to throw at AI is orders of magnitude greater than what they did with HoloLens. That's what's kind of scary. It's weird that this guy from the outside, again, talks, he's really robotic. He's like it's like he has a gambling addiction.
He's a riverboat gambler.
Yeah, man. Like he's just throwing. He's like, in. Yeah. He's like, honey, get the mortgage. Like, I feel good about this hand. Like, what are you doing? Wow. So they have the money, they can afford it, but I wonder, if this was Gates or Ballmer or whatever, maybe would that person have made this same?
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, the story is unfolding. We'll get there. So AI to me right now is. Yikes. It's a lot of money being thrown at this. And I don't know. AI is going to come up a couple times today. I don't know. I don't know.
Microsoft's well positioned because they provide the computing credits to OpenAI, which is the leader at this point in mindshare. I have to say, though, I think Copilot is not necessarily considered by normals as a big hit, right?
I agree. So this is one of those Microsoft might win by losing type things. So Microsoft kind of can make revenues on AI in multiple ways. They've got the developer story. They've got the Azure platform, that's a lot of which is based on OpenAI. They've got OpenAI doing their thing on Azure, for third parties too. So there's all these sources of revenues. It may work out that the Microsoft first party one is the least interesting literally or financially of all those things.
On the other hand, has been quite a success. So Copilot on a PC, maybe not. I think GitHub Copilot is widely considered to be successful.
It is, but we're talking about a very constrained market here. It's small.
And not a very lucrative market either.
That's what I mean. It's So yes, like that's a great example of where AI can be super successful, but as a for a smaller company, that would be gangbusters for Microsoft. It's like they make more than mice, No, they probably do, right?
They probably do.
Even today.
Yeah, I know. My GitHub, it's cheap. I don't even know what I pay, but it's nothing. It's so little that I don't think about it. Now I forgot what I was going to talk about. Another way that Microsoft could make money, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. I think they're going to make, whatever revenue, like they just said 2.5 billion. Oh, but they didn't say it. They kind of talked around it. Using their number, I came up with this math. So if it's 2.5, somewhere in there. Yeah. It's not hard math. So, what is that made of? We have no idea, but I think,
$30
some of
a
it's
month.
going to be, Microsoft 365 Copilot, of course, GitHub Copilot. I don't think Copilot Pro, which is for consumers, makes anything. I don't know. Most of the stuff they're doing is just spending. They have all these AI features in Windows. And
I know what I wanted to ask. Business intelligence. There's a use of AI that I think is widely considered already proven.
Yep. Which is why when they move to what I think of as Copilot Phase 2 or Microsoft AI Phase 2 and the agentic stuff, the first thing they talked about was dynamics, right?
Yeah.
This notion of these things that will operate in the background on your behalf and then come back when they have something. There you go. So here's a human level version of what this is. The place we're in now here, we bought 2.5 years ago. At the time we were buying it, and my wife had notifications she would get on the peso to dollar exchange rate, right? And at that time, it was roughly 20%. And if it went in a certain direction to a certain degree, she would bring more money over in pesos because it made sense. And she ended up making or saving us about $5,000 by doing
arbitrage.
Right? Smart. Yeah. So then that year, so 2.5 years ago, we completed the purchase. The peso came on strong. And so for the past 2 years-ish, the peso's been high. So instead of 20 to 1, it got all the way down to like 17 to 1. Which is, for us might have meant we couldn't afford to buy this place. Like we couldn't have done it.
Right.
So she just came out this morning. She goes, "You're never going to believe what my phone just did." And I'm like, "When?" She goes, "I just got a notification because I had set it up for those. If it hits a certain number," and she says it just went 20.5 or whatever. It's the first time in like 2.5, almost 3 years it's been that high, and it has never been anywhere close in the past 2 years. So there's a what today we would call an agentic AI service working in the background on your behalf.
You see?
Letting you know. So those things can be useful. I mean, and AI, you hope it's making, this is just a simple thing. If this, then that, right? We've all heard of this service, but the AI agentic services, if they're to work, you have to trust that this thing is making, it's not just, if this happens, do this. It's think about stuff. And if all this stuff makes sense, maybe buy the stock or that's a
if I'm a CEO of a company, I want the AI to analyze all the inputs, all the data. Companies have all of this telemetry and tell me what's going on. Tell me some trends in a way that a human analyst may not be able to do, or may be very expensive if you can't get somebody to do that.
We'll see. I worked in a big company where someone was looking at a spreadsheet and they started firing people, right?
Right.
And when you do that kind of one-dimensional thinking, you don't know the human element. One time they got rid of the guy who was our conduit between us and Microsoft for the tech ed at the time, best of show thing that we did. Oops. And that just disappeared because you got rid of this guy. And it's like, oh, sorry, he made $5 too much a week. We got rid of him. And it's like, yeah, thanks. You just killed our relationship with Microsoft, our most important relationship with Microsoft. And, I don't know if AI is going to fix that problem, right? I mean, it's going to be a lot of one-dimensional thinking. We'll see. I mean, it will prove me wrong, I guess. We'll see. But
it might be more dimensional. But on the other hand, AIs don't really care about humans. So it might be less kind.
It's 3D chess like in Star Trek or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So,
obviously, Microsoft thinks this is the next big thing, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. Yeah.
But now you have to answer the questions. That's what's interesting. So you can go find the transcript. You could listen to it if you didn't value your time, but you can look and see the types of questions that people are starting to ask. It's getting a little more, so you said this was going to happen, and it seems like you're just spending a lot of money. So we're going to see. Yeah. At some point, I think there might be shareholders who say, hey, how about throwing us that money instead of throwing it away? Yeah. Maybe.
Right.
They're publicly held.
Now,
they give money back every quarter to shareholders, so they can, dividends, for now they can afford it. At some point, maybe not.
And right now, there's a lot of buzz over AI, and the big market movers are all AI companies.
Look
at NVIDIA.
Isn't there also a lot of? But is it doing anything? Like, what do we? I mean, has this changed anyone's life?
Well, at some point, it could be a bubble. At some point, somebody might pull the plug.
I mean, aside from Scarlett Johansson, has anyone been materially impacted by this? Like, I don't know.
She's getting the big bucks for her voice, right?
She better be.
Do you want to talk about recall before we take a break?
Yeah. So I feel like this also happened last Wednesday, but Microsoft announced recall in May. It was going to come out in preview in June. They delayed it in June to July or later in the summer. They delayed it till October. On the last day of October, they're like, just kidding. It's coming out in December. And so we'll see. But this is one of those things, like, people feel really strongly about recall, and it kind of freaks me out. How strong the opinions are, because it's always people who are never going to use it, don't own one of the PCs that can even run it, could uninstall it if they hated it that much and happen to have it on a computer, and they feel really strongly they should never have to deal with this thing. And I guess this is just a basic human thing I would call on people to sort of try to think outside yourself a little bit. I realize you have privacy concerns and security concerns, all of which I think are freaking nonsense, by the way, but that's fine. You can have those opinions.
Wow.
But the important, this is all nonsense. But the important thing is, and this is the big thing that happened in the wake of all the feedback to recall. They did a 180 on the most important part, which was not fixing the security, by the way. They didn't almost fix anything. It was letting you uninstall it.
Right.
That is huge.
Right.
One of the things we'll talk about toward the end of the show is my ongoing effort to actually use OneDrive and have it not badger me continually to do things it wants me to do, right? And this has been a year-long quest of mine. I started talking about this in the first week of October last year. And this got enough feedback that Microsoft was like, all right, we're going to let you get rid of it. And it still freaks people out. Yeah. So, this thing they delay it again. And look, I'm sorry, but there is some vast majority of people that use Windows that don't think about technology or, by the way, security or privacy, but they don't really think about this stuff like we do, who would just benefit from this and would love it. And just let them have it. Why does it bother you that other people want it? It doesn't matter. If it doesn't impact you, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I wish they were this good about OneDrive and folder backup and all that stuff. I wish they applied this thinking to everything they do in Windows, because that would be a happier place. But that's not what Windows is. So anyway, I feel like they got recall right. It's just that we don't have it. So we'll see.
I saw an ad on TV for Microsoft AI.
Jeez, really?
I think it was for the Copilot Plus PCs.
Okay.
And there was an interesting line in there. It said, it might not be for everyone.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought, wow, that's almost insightful.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if your knuckles are dragging on the ground or something, and maybe it's not for you, I don't know.
For everyone. I mean, partly that's because they are selling non-Copilot Plus PCs still, lots of them, right? That's the majority of PCs. Yeah, so maybe that's why they're saying it. But I thought it was a weird kind of concession to make. Like AI, it might not be for everyone.
That's a weird way to market something. It's like I'm going on a dating site. Look, I'm not for everybody. Look, I'm violent. I yell a lot. I'm angry all the time.
I just want to let you know.
But there's going to be someone out there where we're just like on the same page. I feel like you're there. I don't know. That's weird.
For everybody. Oh, good. I thought I saw that and I thought, I wonder if anyone knows about. Well, yeah, you're in Mexico. Maybe you're not seeing the same ads. Probably aren't. This was on the NFL, I think.
Oh, yeah. So when we do watch sports here, it usually is like the American feed. So oftentimes they'll have Mexican announcers over the top of it. But
when there's a touchdown, then they go,
yeah. It is a little bit like that, actually.
I love it.
It's a hard way to call a game, because in soccer you can kind of build that excitement over the whatever 3 hours it probably feels like. But in a game like American football, like they actually score a lot, So it's kind of hard. Yeah,
it's exciting all the way through, and that's why we love it. Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com. Richard Campbell is taking the week off because he's in Tunisia, and you would do the same. Trust me. No, he actually
there's like a camel that's bringing the internet, but it's not working great.
Camel internet, not quite enough for this show, but he will be, I'm sure, back next week, and I will be filling in the whiskey segment, but in a different way, because I'm really not a drinker. So, but I have a recommendation, nevertheless, and trust me, it's not non-alcoholic whiskey. I wouldn't do that to you.
Jeez. I think maybe this will be the good week for all of you to stop drinking for a little while. Just saying.
I posted on my blog the I voted button from Colorado, which is quite beautiful. It had flowers and stuff. And then I said, I think I picked a bad week to stop drinking.
Yeah, right. It's like the airplane. I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
I was going to say huff glue, but then I thought, I'm going to be. You
ever been to a Turkish bath, Billy?
Our show today, folks, don't just look it up. Our show today brought to you by Melissa. We love Melissa, the trusted data quality expert since 1985. We just love these guys. This is an interesting company because they provide address validation, database validation, augmentation services all over the world in a variety of different ways. So each time I do an ad for this, I want to kind of talk about different parts of it. Let's talk about personalization for now. It could backfire. I'm talking about when your customer service rep says, hello, Mr. Laporte. And my wife says, it's Mrs. Laporte. Or, You get the idea. If you're not careful, personalization can backfire. No one wants to be misidentified, but that's where Melissa can really help you with your customer interactions. It has a fluid knowledge base of global names and naming conventions. These are cultural issues, and Melissa's a global company. If you put in a name associated with a specific country, for instance, you'll be able to parse it more accurately. I'll give you an example apropos Paul. For example, if Senora is the first word in some countries, it would be flagged as an honorific instead of a first name. So as it's a database, it's dumb, it doesn't know, but Melissa knows. No, that's the honorific. The first name is Magdalena, like that. Melissa's database also has a large list of cultural names and vulgarities. Some names might be flagged as valid, but need extra checking because, for example, it's vulgar, it's a celebrity name. Melissa can do all this with business names. Melissa's really kind of amazing. There's so much more to Melissa than just address validation. Be sure to check out Melissa's marketplace where you can access premium third-party data on demand. That's very helpful, improving campaign performance, enhancing data visualization, drive better business decisions like we were talking about earlier. Melissa now offers transparent pricing for all its services, which is great. You can eliminate the guesswork when estimating your business budget. And of course, Melissa takes care of your data. Melissa's services use secure encryption for all file transfers, and their information security ecosystem is built on the ISO 27001 framework. They adhere to GDPR policies. They maintain SOC 2 compliance. You never need to worry about that. So whether you need the full white glove service or just the nuts and bolts, you can choose. Melissa's the best choice for your enterprise. I want you to check it out. In fact, it's really easy to get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Just to test it out at melissa.com/twit, MELISSA, melissa.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. And we thank you for supporting Windows Weekly by going to that address so they know you saw it here, melissa.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa. Back to Senora Thurrott.
So it's funny you say that, because at lunch, my wife and I were just discussing, we went to this place that we go a lot here. Couldn't sit at the bar, sat in the back. There was a new guy, and he kept referring to my wife as lady.
Lady.
Yeah, and it got weird.
It's different
technically, the word he was looking
lady,
for was
right?
senora, or maybe senorita if he wanted to be super polite or something. But yeah, he kept saying lady. So the first, I can't remember how he referred to me, and I was like, I don't know. And then he's called her lady, and I'm like, oh, how do you feel about that? She's like, I don't like it. And then he said it 5 times in 10 minutes, and we were like, oh.
He's trying to be nice.
He's trying to be nice. He's trying to be polite, and it just came out to us wrong. I know what he's like. In my own broken Spanish, I would. I probably do this all the time.
Did you do the same thing? I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. But it was the first time that happened. It was like, it's kind of weird.
I've had that happen. Exactly that. They call me lady all the time, Frank.
They call you lady? Yeah. It's the shirt.
Hey, this is a nice shirt. I got a cowboy on it. I got a horse on it.
It looks like a Marlboro ad from the 70s.
Lisa bought me these retro shirts, and this is one of them, and I really like it. All right, so
yes,
bug in 24H2.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how buggy 24H2 was, and it's kind of astonishing given that they actually had extra time with this one and extra testing. I took a screenshot of it. I put it on everywhere, actually, but I linked to the one on X or Twitter or whatever. Lots of people seeing this. So if your File Explorer window is up toward the top of the screen and you hit that little ... which is probably see more, see whatever it says, the menu is supposed to pop down. It pops up. So it goes off the edge of the screen. You can't read it. Yes, it's like just typical, just the level of quality we get from Windows these days. So just a lot of fun. I noticed this taking screenshots for the book the other day, and I was like, oh, Microsoft, just chef's kiss, good stuff. So not a big deal, but there have been 3 developments, 2 of them today in the Insider Preview channel, which are actually interesting for a change. Two big updates today. One of them ties to an earlier announcement I think they made by mistake in Asia ahead of time, but I'll get to that in a moment. So the first one is that you may or may not know that the emulator that's in Windows 11 on ARM is called Prism. Internally, Microsoft makes it. And it was updated extensively for the Snapdragon X chips. And obviously the chips themselves are super powerful, and that's very important. But also the emulator was updated really dramatically. So they are now testing in the, let me make sure I get this one right, in the what, Paul? In the Canary channel, a new version of Prism again that is adding additional x64 and x86 instruction sets to the emulator, allowing it to run more apps, not natively, obviously, but emulation. And the one that they cite is Adobe Premiere Pro 25.
Ooh.
So instead of, which will probably be ported to ARM, I think they might have even.
Yeah, I mean, they make a version for Apple, which presumably.
Yeah, I mean,
although Premiere is not as good on Mac as it is on Windows.
It's also kind of modular, so you might have add-ins and whatever that won't work and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so this is going to try to take care of that. When you were doing the ad, I tried to. Microsoft uses this. There's a sysinternals tool called Core Info. That's a command line tool. And I tried to, I'm using a Snapdragon on ARM device here. And I was trying to see if I could compare it to what they were seeing, but I couldn't get it to give this exact output. So the point here is that there are 32-bit, 64-bit apps that use certain x86 instruction sets that do not, or are not currently emulated by ARM. And that's part of the compatibility story. And they're working on that. So this is kind of cool to me, not just because it's ARM, but because this is like almost architectural stuff. You don't really get a lot of this from Microsoft these days and the Windows team. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's encouraging that they're very excited about Windows and ARM.
Yeah, so it's good.
Prism is an emulation layer. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the emulator. It's their Rosetta, I guess is the way to think of it.
Okay.
Sort of.
And I wonder, because I'm using Windows on my Mac in Parallels.
Yep.
It would benefit from that.
It does. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, actually, even if you had a previous gen Windows and ARM PC, as lowly as they may be, you would see some improvement because of the improvements to the Prism emulator. Yeah, if you upgraded to 24H2.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And they, I'd have to go back and really try to figure out when they talked about this, but they specifically called out Parallels on the Mac and said, yeah, actually, you will see improvements there too. And anyone who uses that will tell you it's pretty damn good.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It's frankly, it seemed comparable to the Snapdragon dev kit that I got. By the way, I want to send that to you. So send me your mailing address.
I will. Thank you.
Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I will. I learned that last night.
I moved from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If I'm not mistaken, there is only one other Commonwealth. And I think it's
New
Virginia.
Mexico, or where is the other?
I think it's Virginia, but I could be
Virginia.
wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe someone could tell me if there's others, but I think those.
I bet you Bing could tell us.
I mean, I wouldn't use Bing with your computer, but you could if you wanted to. If you want to look it up, I don't know.
Oh, I changed my action button to start a book instead of ChatGPT. I was going to ask ChatGPT, see if it knew. It knows all of it. ChatGPT AI's gotten pretty good. You try Copilot, I'll try ChatGPT.
So it is Virginia. Actually, Kentucky is one. So I guess there are 4. Kentucky.
Today.
How many Commonwealths are there in the United States of America?
In the United States, there are 4 states that officially designate themselves as Commonwealth: Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia.
You just said that, didn't you?
Sorry, I just looked it up.
I like her voice, though. It makes it...
I expect her to say, blimey.
Blimey.
There are 4.
That's a good use for AI, and as long as it doesn't hallucinate a new state.
This is why I think Google could, and we'll see what happens, could come out ahead, because they have this vast thing with search. You can see when you want an answer, just throw them the answer, and if it's some more like make a story thing, use AI. I don't know. I feel like that's what search is for. Anyway.
Yeah, but so ChatGPT is now doing search as part of, if you have a pro version.
Right.
So I haven't been. It's not easy to get to. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. I haven't. Yeah. I don't pay for it, so I don't get to see it.
I should have done it in ChatGPT. Well,
so
never too late.
Where did I put this? Later in the show, we're going to talk about these changes coming to Microsoft 365, but only in some places in the world. And I saw this story and I threw it by Laurent, the guy who writes our news, and I said, I don't quite understand what's going on here. I feel like we already have this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I don't get it either. And then I saw this line that said something about using credits to apply to apps that are built into Windows, like Paint, Photos, and Notepad, Copilot credits. And I was like, there's no such thing. There are no AI features in Notepad, and there are no AI features in Paint or Photos that are free and would benefit from, tokens or whatever. I don't understand what this is for. So he's like, yeah, I have no idea. And then later in the day, Microsoft announced a new build to the beta. Let me make sure. I think it's the beta channel where they're testing new AI features in, wait for it, Paint, Photos, and Notepad. So I think actually, I guess these are Canary and Dev, sorry, not beta. But I think this announcement that I'm referencing, which we'll talk about later, might have gone out inadvertently. I don't think they were ready to announce the thing they just announced. But
they pre-announced it.
I think they screwed up. I think they had to enter and oops. So we'll get to that. That's another story. Yeah. But this is kind of interesting. So if you're familiar with how AI features work in Windows today, if you don't have a Copilot Plus PC, everything runs against the cloud, right? So there are a couple of features in Paint, like background removal, image generation. There's actually several now features in Photos, the Copilot app, which is a web app. All these things run against the cloud. If you have a Copilot Plus PC, you get several other features that run against the MPU in the machine, right? And, kind of a mixed bag in both cases, frankly, but that's how that kind of breaks down. If you have Copilot Pro, or if you're a business customer and you have Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can use the Copilot app in Windows to work against that system. You can get additional features. And if you have that and you have Microsoft Word, Excel, or whatever it is on your computer, you'll get those features in those apps. Okay. That's all about to change. We're going to get to that soon. But as far as Windows goes, it looks like they're going to add generative AI. Well, no, I'm sorry. They literally are going to add generative AI features across those three apps, Paint, Photos, and Notepad. That will... They don't say this in the blog post. I just know it's coming because they screwed up with an announcement. That will require tokens or credits, we'll call them, against Copilot, meaning that if you do enough of this, it's going to say, nope, you're going to have to start paying for this thing. And I think some of these features might actually require that subscription. So a Microsoft 365 personal or family, or that Copilot Pro subscription, right? So it's kind of a jumble right now. Right now, they just announced this. It's about to go out into the Insider program. Depending on where you live in the world, you should be able to test it without having to pay for anything. But at some point, I think they're going to start charging for this stuff. So generative fill, that's where you have a picture of whatever aspect ratio, and you want to add to it on the sides, top, bottom, left, right, whatever. Kind of a neat feature. Actually, I use this sometimes with photos. It's pretty good. Generative erase, same thing. You've got this image with like an object in it. You want to erase that thing. Neat. That will be in Paint. That's cool. But the controversial one, the Mary Jo one, I guess, if you will, is they're adding generative, I guess we'll call it text creation capabilities and editing and summarizing, et cetera, to Notepad, which I think is kind of predictable, but also like, oh, you had this really simple thing and you're turning it into what? Like, what is this thing? So, yeah.
I can only imagine what Mary Jo would have to say.
I don't think she's going to be happy about this. Mary Jo's going to turn into one of those people that like keeps an obsolete version of an app on a USB key and then uses the old one all the time.
Like Steve Gibson. Yeah. I know that type.
She's going to turn into that person because look, they've updated Notepad a lot over the past couple of years in Windows 11, and I like it. What they've done so far has been great. And then I look at this and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I mean, hopefully you'll be able to turn it off, but I guess we'll see. So anyway, that's kind of interesting. Again, this is only the first half of a story. We'll talk about the rest of it later.
You know what I find interesting is how Paint has gone from being kind of a throwaway,
right,
like a program no one really used, although you always used it.
Used it extensively, yep.
Which is hysterical to me.
Yeah.
But you were kind of the exception.
Yep.
But Microsoft's giving it a lot of love.
Yeah. So I always give Benito the option, when it comes to naming episodes of Hands on Windows, but I did an episode about Paint recently, and I wanted to call it the Microsoft Paint Masterclass. And he thought maybe that was a little too much or something. But so I've used Paint, decades. I used Paint from the early 2000s. I still do, to make our Christmas card every year, for example. There was a 2-year period there where they screwed it up really bad, where they modernized the UI, but they only gave it the light mode. And it wasn't even light mode. It was like bright white mode. So if you were in dark mode, it was like this beacon of light in the dark. And then they fixed it. And there were also a lot of keyboard shortcut screw ups. They didn't fix all of them. They fixed the most important ones. The two I use all the time, Control E, Control W, which is basically for cropping and resizing, to put it simply. So I use those all the time. So that's part of the masterclass. You could sign up for that on my special website for paid Thurrott products. But anyway, it is like Notepad. They've actually, now that they've gotten over the humps, have done a nice job with it. And even I have to say, so like the background removal capability in Paint, it works great. So generative erase, generative, creation, I guess we're calling it, or whatever it's called.
Generative generation, I think.
Generative generation. G squared, as we say in the lingo. No, that's good stuff. Like, I think that's fine. Like, it's okay. And look, one of the big things that they did in Paint that I think is super important was they added layer capabilities, right? So as in Photoshop, you can create new objects in layers of their own, and you can arbitrarily turn them on and off. And that's neat for I use that in the Christmas card thing, because it's like a grid of images, and sometimes I want to see what different layouts look like, so I can hide and show different parts of it. It's nice.
This is a layout that we want to use from now on the show, where we just take you and put you in a little corner.
Yep. I
didn't even need Paint to do that. Well, it's a little tiny Paul, a little teeny weeny Paul.
Silenced.
Okay, but
are there family fights over how big a pain each picture gets?
No, I try to be really fair about that. I emphasize the kids. One of my big pet peeves with almost every single human being I know on earth is I know the person or the couple. It's 30 years in, and they send me pictures of kids, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are.
Who are these people?
You should be in there too. Like, I don't understand that.
Everybody should be in the picture, please, because
we
don't know who these
I try to
kids
highlight
are.
the kids, a couple of places, whatever things we did, and then
I always love your cards. I save them.
I do too.
Yeah,
but
I didn't know you used Paint. That's why
I use Paint.
Yeah. Well, now that makes sense, because there's so much more you could do. In fact, it really kind of makes sense that might be the interface for generative AI. Like, that's how you might want to generate pictures.
Yeah, right. I mean, AI is a lot like anything else Microsoft does. They kind of look at where you are and does it make sense to have it here. Right. So Photos app makes sense for sure. Paint, Paint versus Photos. Photos literally is about photos. I think of Paint as just like other images. Although in this case, I'm editing. I'm editing a layout, so there's photos in it, but it's really images. But
is Paint.net still a thing, or is that?
Yep,
it is.
Yeah,
because that was kind of the Notepad plus of Paint.
That's right. Yeah, I don't like it. I keep trying to use it. I go back to it. I try. They've had layers from the beginning, and they have a lot of other advanced kind of Photoshop type features. But I just something. That's why I'm worried about Notepad. I feel like it's at a good place. It does enough. It's nice. It's not bulked out with stuff I don't need. And I hope they don't do that to Notepad or Paint, but we'll see. We're running out of toolbar space. I can tell you that. It's kind of a problem,
It's a get just for people who want to know. And by the way, this looks like it's been a Windows app since Windows 95.
Paint.net, yeah.
It hasn't.
No,
that's why I was wondering if it's still
about
around, but it is, obviously, yeah.
It almost has a, obviously it's supposed to look a little bit like Photoshop, but to me it looks a little bit like Visual Studio. It's just almost like a little too much, like lots of little windows in the corners and things like.
And can it do anything? I mean,
I'm sure it can. I absolutely, it does all kinds of things. Okay. It's way more sophisticated than Paint. I'm not trying to say they're the same thing. I just use, and I know there are people who just love it and they know it inside and out, and right. That's great, but it's just too much for me.
It's too much. Who needs it? And don't go to paint.net because then you get this spurious whatever.
Well, so you can get it from the Microsoft Store as well.
That's probably the,
I think
that's
you might have
the
to
right way to do
pay
it.
for it if you go that direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a couple of different ways to get it.
It's getpaint.net. But what do you need it for? Now you got real paint.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's a market for tools that are Photoshop but aren't a monthly subscription that is more than your mortgage, right?
Well, Apple knows that. They just bought the big Pixelmator, the big photo app.
Yeah, I mean, Aperture was their idea for that. I'm surprised
their
they didn't continue with
$500 idea for that.
That might be why, yeah. So maybe what we're going to get is a Photos Pro or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's the thinking. It'll be like
Siri,
Photos Pro.
whatever they call it, some stupid thing.
Photolicious.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
The other big one in the Insider program is related to something that Microsoft vaguely announced a month or two ago, which was that they're going to overhaul the Windows Hello user experience, if you will, the user interface in Windows, and also improve the way that it handles passkeys, which I think I said at the time is a low bar because the way it does passkeys now is ridiculous and useless. So those two things are tied together. When I was updating the book last year for 23H2, I went down this amazing rabbit hole that stretched into 3 months where I figured out passkeys inside and out and figured out all this stuff. But I wrote this article probably about a year ago called The Secret Lives of Passkeys, because what I had discovered, I don't know when this started. I guess I could go back and try to figure it out. But in Windows 11, 23H2 and newer at least, and possibly 22H2, I guess, when you sign in with a Microsoft account or a work or school account, you get a passkey is created on the system. And it's that passkey that the authentication that occurs through Windows Hello is operating against. It's actually it's implemented with a passkey. Now, Microsoft created the basis for Windows Hello and this kind of biometric authentication in long run time frame, right? That was part of the whole thing. And
they had a single sign-on. What was that called? I remember. I had high hopes for that. Passport. It was Passport, wasn't it?
One of the names. Yep.
Yeah.
Its names were legion, as we say. But as far as shifting to the point where you could sign into Windows with an online account, I think it was Windows 8, I want to say, where that happened. In Windows 7 was like the Mac is today. You have a local account. You can tie it to an online account, Microsoft's, Apple's case, the Apple ID, right? Apple account. And then they do a pass-through for authentication, right? In Windows 7, you could do the same thing. It was Passport. You're right. It was Passport. MSN Passport, Microsoft, whatever the name was.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought this is the future. No more passwords.
Idea. But then they did full-blown Windows Hello, where you had at the time PIN. Remember they did the pattern picture. You would do a pattern on a picture. It was picture pattern. It was the same one, and then facial and fingerprint recognition, right? And so like I said, I don't remember exactly which version of Windows this changed, but at some point, when you sign into a Microsoft account, under the covers, it's probably, there's a local account occurring. Obviously, it's doing the same pass through, but in reverse. But the way that they handle that credential is through a passkey, right? And so they were using earlier versions of FIDO standards to create all this stuff over time. They've been working with with FIDO on this the whole time, and so it didn't really benefit anyone in 23H2, but just so you know, you sign in with an online account, there's a passkey on that computer. It doesn't do much. If you sign in with, if you use Microsoft Edge, obviously there's that pass-through authentication that occurs, but that occurred before it was a passkey. I mean, they're just doing it to the standard, right? So they're using the passkey. So they're using the name, but it was always passkeys. That's right. Well, it was like a proto passkey, maybe is the way to say it, right? Because we didn't have that term yet, and it wasn't a standard.
If I think of it, that's how passkeys behaves, is just like Passport did.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah. It's a formal industry-wide standard for that sort of thing, for credential management and authentication. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yep. So, like I said, vaguely Microsoft about a month ago, whenever it was, said, "Hey, we're gonna change it." And so now they're being more explicit about the fact that when you're doing this, you're signing in with a passkey. You're using Windows Hello for the authentication part of it. That could be facial, finger, or PIN. just like it is today, but just kind of a cleaner UI. So it's kind of interesting just to see the UI. It's nothing surprising. It looks pretty normal, but I think we also talked about the FIDO org, and yeah, the password managers, Microsoft, the platform makers, Apple, et cetera, have all agreed to adopt this broadly, and so they're going to allow import, export of passkeys, passkey portability, et cetera, et cetera. So someday soon, hopefully, Windows will become like a full-fledged passkey
manager
implementation. Yeah.
And Hello makes it very easy. I use my fingerprint on Macs, and it's great. Or my face on an iPhone, and it's great.
Right. It's the same thing, basically. I mean, you have to reach a certain level of, it has to be a trusted security method or whatever, but they have it on Android, they have it on Chrome OS, Mac, iPhone.
Most
iPad.
Windows PCs support Hello cameras, or is that still kind of a premium?
So I don't know that I could say that. I'm not 100% sure, but all Windows PCs that support Windows 11 technically support Windows 11 because a PIN qualifies. It's not the greatest way, obviously, but it qualifies. It's an extra level of something. I don't know what to call it. It
is something to look
you're
for,
not using
though,
a passport.
When you're buying a PC, is look for Windows Hello support in the camera, I think. Right?
Yeah, the best configuration is you get both fingerprint and finger, and
I agree.
You can choose the one that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I agree. That HP laptop we like does both of those.
Yeah. It usually works pretty great. And then they have presence sensing capabilities that will see you coming, and the screen lights up. It's nice.
And if you've had rhinoplasty and it doesn't recognize your face, you always have
less dramatically if you wear glasses. Like you do like you enroll once with each face, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Enroll with each face.
It's like I'm not saying you like gained a lot of weight or anything, but we don't know who you are. You're gonna have to do another enrollment. So you're like,
when it doesn't recognize you. It's
you don't want the computer telling you that.
You're just a little chubby, aren't you? A little chubby, wabby. All right, let's take a little break, and we will come back. Lots more to talk about. Paul Thurrott is alone, but not lacking in
so alone
stuff to talk about.
Very
He's alone. I'm here for you, Paul. I'm trying to fill in Richard's role a little bit on the show today. That's why I'm so chatty. Normally, I'd just be sitting back, playing, Bedazzled or something,
Farmville or whatever.
Farmville.
Call of Duty, I hope.
Call of Duty. I tried the Age of Empires on the iPad. It's, at least initially, it's kind of a different game. It looks the same. Maybe it's just because there's so many cutscenes. Maybe they're trying to help people learn how to do it. But it's a great idea of it on an iPad is a great idea. So I have to get more into it. Yeah. Our show today, Mr. Thurrott, brought to you by 1Password. Speaking of passkeys, but I'm not talking about the 1Password password manager, which does, of course, support passkeys. I'm talking about an enterprise product from 1Password that incorporates 1Password's password manager into something they call 1Password Extended Access Management. Here's a question, and it's purely rhetorical because I think we know the answer. Do your end users always work on company-owned devices with IT-approved apps? They never stray, do they? They never bring their phone in or their laptop. Well, of course they do. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on those unmanaged devices, on those unmanaged apps? Well, 1Password has a really good answer to this question. Brand new, Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM, password managers, and MDM cannot touch. Imagine your company's security as if it were the quad of a college campus. You got your nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are the company-owned devices, the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities. And then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the shortest points from building A to building B. Those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities like contractors. Most security tools just assume, hey, it's happy brick paths everywhere. But a lot of the security problems take place on the shortcuts. That's why you need 1Password Extended Access Management. It's the first security solution that brings all those unmanaged devices, all those apps, all those identities under your control. It ensures every user credential is strong and protected. Every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. It's security for the way we actually work today. And it's generally available to companies that use Okta or Microsoft Entra. It's also in beta now for Google Workspace customers. Check it out, onepassword.com/Windows Weekly. That's the number one, PASSWORD.com/Windows Weekly. This is a great idea. onepassword.com/Windows Weekly. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly and the work Paul and Richard do every week on this fine program. You support them by going to that address, onepassword.com/Windows Weekly. This is turning into a security show here. You're talking
I'm the wrong person to be talking about that stuff, but
no, you're not.
No,
you're not.
The everyman's approach to security.
Steve Gibson. Good.
There's going to be more. I've got the thing I moved into the tip today is all about security, really, fundamentally. So
it's kind of an issue in computing.
I never wanted to go down this path, Leo. This is the rabbit hole. There's no way out.
Hey, it was that or enterprise computing?
Yeah. Both gross. We're going to talk about that too.
Oh my God!
It's the weirdest episode of all time. I don't know what's happening. So I try to highlight every time a major app comes to Windows on ARM. One of the neat things about the Copilot Plus PC launch, maybe one of the only neat things, no, that's not fair. The hardware is awesome, is just the sheer amount of apps that Microsoft and Qualcomm were able to convince their makers to make native ports. Most of the major browsers are there now, a lot of the major productivity apps, et cetera, et cetera. If there are areas where ARM lags behind, and there are a couple. The big one, of course, is games. I don't have any news there. We talked a little bit up top about something they're testing in the Canary channel with regards to the Prism emulator and different, x86, x64 instruction sets. But the other big one that's missing, or had been missing, is VPN. So I think there are at least a couple. I think ExpressVPN might be native on ARM, but this past week, Proton announced that Proton VPN is now native on ARM, and this has been kind of neat for me. They brought their app to the Apple TV last week. I've been using that on Apple TV.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, and now I'm using Proton VPN on this computer I'm using here. I don't have it on now, by the way.
It doesn't seem like porting it from Intel to ARM would be that complicated because most of the work done on a VPN is done on the server.
So the reason it doesn't just work is that there's a driver installed with every VPN.
It has to be underneath,
And drivers, you can't emulate drivers. So I'm not saying it's difficult or easy. I actually have no idea, but
I've come to think of it, that makes a lot of sense. Why. Yeah.
So that's there.
It's a completely different
if you're a Proton guy, that's a good combination. Proton apps and services and Windows on ARM.
Are you using their mail yet?
No. So I'm baby stepping my way into the Proton world. I use Proton Pass for my password and passkey management. They do
good for you.
Portable passkeys. Awesome.
Yeah.
Works on all my devices. I just started looking at what it means to use Proton Drive. That's the only one that's a little weird. They don't have normal tiers of storage as I think of it. So you can't, when you sign up for it, you can't say, all right, I'd like to get a gigabyte or whatever, or terabyte, sorry. You can't. I think at some point what happens is you basically fill up what you have, and then you could go to them and say, I'd like to get some more, please. And you hold like a little hat.
That's interesting.
Like Tiny Tim or something.
Weird.
It's a little strange. So I'm just...
Although you only buy as needed, so I guess that's preferable, right?
I guess so.
Instead of having to buy 100 apples because you might use 100 apples, you
that's right. Okay. The promise of cloud computing is that we only use the resources or pay for the resources when we use them. Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, like I said, I'm still getting into it, but I've been using Proton VPN as well, so that's been great. The little slice of enterprise we have here is that over the weekend I wrote about Microsoft generally releasing, if you will, making it generally available, Windows Server 2025, which they described as the latest long-term servicing channel release of server, but that's the only type of server release they have, so whatever. These things each version is supported for 5 years. I don't write as much about server and enterprise stuff anymore, obviously, at Thurrott.com, but I thought this one was interesting because after being so hyper-focused on the cloud for so many years, Microsoft finally got enough pushback from customers that it sort of acknowledged like we need to invest in this server product as well. Not because we're all going back to on-prem, like cloud's going away, but rather every major company, and that's their big business, right, has some workload, something that can't be put in the cloud for regulatory, whatever it is. And these hybrid environments are super important. And so Windows Server 2025 is really designed to be the on-prem part of a hybrid deployment. And they've done a lot of stuff under the covers. So I wrote this thing over the weekend. I was like, it's kind of weird they haven't announced it. Like it's out, like it's available. And then they announced it on Monday. So they did get to it. Anyway,
I never thought I'd hear Paul Thurrott say the words on-prem in my entire life. So
what's that?
On-prem. I never thought I'd hear you say on-prem.
If life goes accordingly, you'll never hear me say it again. I don't know.
That's your server story for the day.
Yep. Yeah, it's just not my thing anymore. And then this is like tangentially related. I'm just fascinated. I'm fascinated by this one. So last year, not this past year, but last year, Google did the thing they do every year. February comes around. Here's the first developer preview of Android. They usually hit beta before or right before their annual show, Google I/O. And then they ship it or they finalize it in August. And then they put the ASOP version out in September, and then they announce their own devices, and their own devices are the first ones that get it, right? Last year, they said, we're going to try to ship this thing a little early to kind of meet the schedules of different companies who use Android. And they missed it. So, okay, no big deal. And then this year, they were like, no, seriously, we're going to make this one, we're going to deliver this thing early. They were going to try to wrap this whole thing up by August. And at the time, what we didn't know was that they were going to release all their new Pixel phones in August. And man, they missed it by 2 months. So they didn't even come close. So for next year, they're going to switch the whole schedule over so that the major Android release, so what will probably be called Android 16, will ship in the second quarter. So by the end of June 2025. And then they'll do kind of a minor, what they call an SDK release, meaning there'll be underlying features that developers can take advantage of, but the UI and the behavior of Android 16, what did I call it? Android 16 is not going to change. And then that will be the schedule going forward. And the reason that they gave was to more closely align with the needs of their hardware partners, right? And to me, that means Samsung, right? Because Samsung usually does their big release now is in August, right? Or even July. It's the folding phones. That's the big one, right? And Google has also switched this basic schedule. It allows them to get out before Apple because the iPhones always come out in September. And maybe this is what makes sense. But when you look at what they do, it's actually alarmingly similar to what Windows is. Not so much the time frame, but rather that they have one major release every year. They do that kind of minor release SDK. So Microsoft doesn't really do that. But then they ship new features every quarter. And if you're on Pixel, you get additional new features every
month for the
Pixel drops. Yeah. And then they do monthly security updates. And sometimes you'll see small things that kind of stuff happens. So, we live in a world where like whatever platform you're using, man, it's just getting updated all the time.
But they do seem to be coming to a kind of group consensus about how often and when. It's like that. Like Microsoft and Google both, right, are kind of on the same cadence now.
I don't know if I'm misreading this, but I feel like I can't remember the versions anymore, but the last 2, 3, whatever versions of Android, the major releases, so 14, 15 at least, haven't seen like a big deal from a user interface, new features perspective.
No, I can't tell. I don't even know.
But iOS,
you'd know what version you were on and be excited about
the iOS seems like it's a big enough. I mean, for an annual release. Like at some point, I feel like this is going to have to slow down, but they're they're on the train. I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe Microsoft was onto something with Windows on a service. He says, just kidding, because seriously, you screwed everything up. But whatever. Mobile platforms at least are.
You can't mess them up as bad, right?
Well, they're important though, in the sense that people use them. People are more engaged. There's more things going on there.
Use it more than ever.
When I sit down, you sit down in front of a computer. You don't want things like why did you change that? Like you don't want change. Like you just want to get work done.
Right.
So I don't know. That's my little editorial on that.
Well, and you also with phones, you got to get it right, and they are they are the targets much more so now.
Right. That's right. I'm losing track of when I talked about different things, but I think I alluded to this laptop I was going to review.
You love this.
So here's the hard numbers on this one. So I put Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on here. I've played it in both single and multiplayer. It is running at full native resolution, which is something silly like 2280 by 1400, something pretty good. So not 4K, but also better than 1920. It's actually set to a custom graphics configuration, but if you go down and look at it when it's plugged in, everything's on basically medium, but it looks awesome. This thing is getting between 90 and 120 frames per second consistently.
Wow.
Which is nuts. And it looks great. Like, it's awesome. So this is just a laptop. It's a gray laptop. It's on sale right now for $1,000. It's not a lot of money for this kind of a thing. It's 32 gigs of RAM, terabyte of storage.
What?
There are different configurations.
For $1,000?
$1,000. It's on sale right now.
Wow.
And this thing plays the most modern video game there is in a way that I find alarming. Like, it's really great.
This is AMD. This really is AMD.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they've done something really right here, and I don't think they get enough credit for this. This was something I noticed. I first started looking at late last year with Meteor Lake, which is Intel. It was okay, and then this past summer I had that $700-800 IdeaPad, which is previous gen, which was very, very good, actually. But this is a step
off here. You're at the top.
I just needed something that was representative. It so happens I have the highest score. That's a coincidence.
Haven't lost it, have you, Paulie?
Like riding a bike, Leo.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you, man.
Teabagging like a 14-year-old.
But tell you. Don't mess with Thurrott. That's all I'm saying.
I also have my hat handed to me sometimes, but
I'm impressed that you're able to do this on a laptop. That really does.
No, I am too. That's the thing. Yeah. And so that's the thing. Look, the PC has always been super versatile. This isn't like a news flash or anything, but as we go off and do different things in different places, and most of us use mobile devices, et cetera, and the PC has become focused on productivity. This is a thing you can do too, and it's kind of cool. Like, it's not as seamless as a console for sure, but we're getting to the point now where even on like a really kind of pedestrian looking laptop, it's actually better graphics quality, right? Like, it's kind of incredible.
Wow.
So it's neat, but
great battery life. What's the screen like? Is it good?
Yeah. So it's IPS. That's the thing. So they kind of, this is conjecture on my part. I think HP in this case wanted to do something where they're going to strike a balance between performance
and price,
battery life, all that kind of stuff. So
that's true too. Yeah.
The other places where this thing does well is battery life efficiency, and 8.5 hours I'm averaging.
That's amazing.
Normal, not game playing. I mean, I'm plugging in for games, but it's pretty good. And the instant on performance, like I always talk about with Snapdragon, is almost perfect. It's amazing. Instant, reliable, very good. Doesn't get super hot, doesn't get super loud. It's pretty great. The screen is, I don't remember the exact res, it's in the review, but it's something like 2280 by 1400-ish, somewhere in there. IPS, it's only 60 frames a second, so you're not getting high refresh rate. You're not getting OLED. These are things that would impact, certainly OLED would impact battery life. But it's awesome. Honestly, it's great. And even the speakers are great. There's 4 speakers. It has upper and lower firing speakers. Like, it's amazing. And then I have this other piece of junk. No, I have this other computer that's running Lunar Lake, and I've had lots of problems with it. Lots of problems. And I've talked to other people who review laptops, and they've seen the same thing I have, which is kind of nice because this doesn't always happen. And 2 of them recommended to me that what I need to do is put this thing in best performance power management mode and not use the default. Okay. So
you won't be playing Call of Duty on that.
Well, that's what I just tried that today. So it takes about 8 hours to install. It's like 200 and something gigabytes, over Wi-Fi. Took a little while. Xbox, I think, siphons it down a little bit. Finally got this thing running. So it's not the same experience. The good news is it is playable. This is, you got to remember, is a step up for Meteor Lake. So Meteor Lake was it was actually a really good graphics boost for Intel. Lunar Lake, for all its problems, the graphics boost also good. not as good as AMD. There's no doubt about that. So it's also running at native res. I know, Chris, you would probably want to know what that is. I could look that up if you want. I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry. But it's all the graphics settings are on low. And you can see this in the screenshots I've taken. It's like if there's like a couple of bodies laying on the ground in a doorway is one of them. They just look like light colored blobs. They're not detailed in any way. And so they really have to tune down the graphics. But it runs at 43 frames a second. So we're talking the AMD version is 2 to 2.5 times faster. Now, AMD, much better graphics. That's why, right? It's kind of amazing, frankly. So I guess if there weren't other problems with Lunar Lake, which I'm going to get to when I finally review that thing, I would be okay with this. I mean, it's still better than Meteor Lake, and it's, you can still play the game. It runs fast enough, I guess. I don't know, but it's not like the Zen 5 thing is crazy. Like, it's crazy how good it is.
So I'm looking for the review on here. Did you post?
I don't have the Lunar Lake one yet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's why. I'm sorry. I literally just ran this today. This is one of the. It would probably be. I assume. Yeah, it'd probably be before next week. Probably.
Okay.
By then. Yeah. Yeah, but battery life isn't as good. The performance is not even close. I've had lots of reliability issues with it. And then there's this thing where it's like, it runs. It's better. I guess if I hadn't seen the AMD thing, I'd be like, okay, this is a nice step up from Meteor Lake. I mean, for graphics, but
it just feels so bad for Intel. It's really just not.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, tied to this, Intel announced their quarterly earnings. I don't know if you saw this. It was not great. We were talking earlier about Microsoft and their earnings and how much they're spending on AI and how much they're making on AI. And you don't see this kind of number, this set of numbers a lot, where they reported a net loss that was greater than all of their revenues. It's kind of hard to explain why that's so horrible, I guess, unless you know exactly what I'm talking about. But generally speaking, net income or profits are some fraction of revenues. Revenue is the big number. It's the net sales. It's the actual money you brought in. They lost more money than they made. Like, this is
that's
not good. It's the worst loss in the company's history. This isn't part of my story, but since this happened, they're going to be delisted from the NASDAQ as part of
the Dow. They're
Dow.
Being replaced by NVIDIA and the Dow.
They're replaced by NVIDIA, which I don't know if you're following the news. They're going gangbusters, so that's kind of sad for Intel. So this was another one where, okay, now I want to be fair to this company because I really do think Pat Gelsinger's done a good job on a number of levels, but one of them is just being kind of transparent and honest about what's happening and being like pragmatically kind of saying, look, a big chunk of this loss was tied to impairment charges that are related to assets that they have that are worth less now. That's something you could actually just put in your earnings over 2 years or whatever. You can do it over time. They're like, you know what? We're going to take this loss all at once. We're going to post a loss anyway. Why don't we just bite the bullet, so to speak, and get it out of the way? So I guess I sort of respect that. But as is the case with Microsoft, I kind of look at this business and I'm like, okay, so things aren't going great. Where all of their No, that's not fair. Some of their business is down year over year. The data center stuff is actually up a bit. That's pretty good. But so what's going on here, right? And so again, as is the case with Microsoft, you can go and listen to the post-earnings conference call they have with analysts. They didn't provide a transcript, so I actually had to listen to it, which was thrilling. But there was some interesting conversation in there, and somebody asked about whether Lunar Lake, which was a big part of the financial problems that they had this year because they brought this architecture, the full architecture they brought to market was 3 years out. Cost them a lot of money. I've been told by multiple sources they lose money every time they sell one of these things. Is a one-off. And Pat Gelsinger repeated that phrase, whatever term, back to that guy twice, at least 3 times, and referred to Lunar Lake as a one-off. And what does that mean? Lunar Lake is the only modern CPU that they've made where the RAM is packaged on the die with the CPU and the other processors, right? That's the way like Apple does Apple Silicon, right? It's the way Qualcomm does Snapdragon phone chips, right? The PC chips that Qualcomm makes, they're technically not packaged on the die, but for all intents and purposes, they really are. They come together. You can't add RAM to one of those computers later. They're not technically the same package, but they are packaged together, if you will, small p, whatever. So yeah, they did Meteor Lake because of the demands for AI PCs, as they call it, right? They don't want to say Copilot plus PC, because Microsoft went to them and said, you need to make this spec, because if you don't, AMD and Qualcomm are going to do it. They stopped doing the Meteor Lake gen. They're not going to rev that anymore. That was a one-off architecturally. And then they brought this thing to market more quickly, and they cobbled it together from other parts of the different things they're working on separately. So Lunar Lake is this weird thing that kind of came up out of nowhere really quickly, and they're never going to do it again. Like, this is the only time they're ever going to use this design. This is another one-off. Like, it's crazy. So I don't know what to say. Like, you can't, there's not infinite money. You can't keep doing this. Now, from Intel's perspective, part of the margins issues, part of the reason they lose money on these chips is that, they're manufacturing it through a third party, TSMC, right? So they pay for that. They want to bring that in-house when they can. And then there's the whole memory thing, RAM. They want to get the best deal on that. And if it's all tied together and you're getting it from that same third party, you're not going to get a deal on it. And they're not exactly the biggest customer right now, especially since this is only one of their many chip lines. So yeah, they're never doing it again. So yikes. Anyway, I feel bad for Intel. I think it's the short version of the story.
Yeah, we're all a little sad. It's too bad.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
But at least the Lunar Lake stuff is awesome. Oh, wait.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I would say, go back in time. I guess it was 2 months ago now. It feels like a million years ago. But at IFA in Berlin, they came out really confident presentation. A lot of, we're the best here, and here. We had that story a couple of weeks ago where Qualcomm was like, a lot of that was lies. And my whole thing with them was like, it looks like they kind of hit it out of the park. They need this. And then you use one of these things, you're like, oh, I'm seeing some of the same reliability problems, It's not good. Mm-hmm. So I'd like them to get it together. It would be better for everybody if they did, but not yet. Okay. And then we don't have to go into this too much detail, but Amazon and Apple both released their earnings since last week. They're both doing pretty good. $95 billion in revenues for Apple, biggest company in the world. The thing we're looking at there is iPhone sales, because there was worries that would be flat again. They've had kind of a problem there for a while. I think iPhone revenues are up 5-6%. There's no indication that there's been any shift in which models people are buying, et cetera. So it's probably up a little bit. That's good. Today, I don't have this in the notes, but there was a story. The Financial Times tipped me off of this. I actually ignored it for a couple of days because I wasn't sure it was that big of a deal. But Apple, like all publicly held companies, files a 10K form with the SEC every quarter. And they have, among the many things that have to be in this form, which, by the way, I don't think the SEC does much of a job of oversight, but whatever, is you have to declare what you see as the risks associated with your business. And in Apple's case, those risks were always, exchange rates, competitors, customers not interested in the products, blah, 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 whatever. And they added some stuff to this one that they'd never used before. And it's kind of interesting. And it does basically amount to, we have this really one popular, successful thing that we're never going to beat. And we've introduced a bunch of products and none of them have done as good. And now we're working on things that are really expensive to come to market. And it's unclear if anyone's going to want to buy them. And our new risk is that we're never going to be as successful as we were. So it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I think the rationale for it is there. I mean, I'm not predicting doom and gloom for Apple. I think Apple is an amazing business.
A malaise in the zeitgeist these days.
Yeah, but if you have some number of quarters where things go south financially, relative to your position, I mean, this is still going to be huge. Investors could sue you for this. You didn't disclose material risk to your business that you're legally obligated to disclose.
So if you don't have something, make up something.
Well, they had a car thing they worked on that went nowhere. They have a Vision Pro thing that's expensive, no one's buying. They have ideas for glasses and who cares what else. But these are things that none of which are going to be iPhones, and at some point you have to be like, look, the whole world has an iPhone. So we've done everything we can. The businesses, the services business we have, Apple, is based on, would not exist without iPhone, right? You could argue that those two businesses plus a bunch of wearables, a bunch of the other device sales are all tied to you owning an iPhone. That business is bigger than Microsoft every quarter. Just iPhone by itself.
Amazing.
iPhone and its ecosystem. So is Apple or any other company going to ever beat that? I mean, it's hard to imagine, but not in my lifetime, right? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe AI.
So, maybe.
It's funny because one of the analysts on the analyst call asked Tim Cook, well, what if Google loses this court case and has to stop paying you $20 billion or so a year? That's going to hurt your services. And Tim basically said, yeah, we're not going to talk about that right now.
Why would we talk about it? We've never talked about it. Which, by the way, publicly held company. It's a little iffy.
Well, I think both Google and Apple think this is going to be many years off, and maybe now after the election, maybe never. Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if they can order the DOJ to I don't think they can discontinue existing. Yeah. I mean, you put in your own.
Well, you've already had rulings against the company. You can't. Just kidding. I mean, that's not really the way it works. There's a legal process, but we'll see. I mean, Apple has bigger problems, I would say, in Europe than they have here, for sure.
Right.
That's not going away.
Right. We're going to talk about Microsoft's second biggest business pretty darn soon, but first a word.
First biggest.
Is it their first biggest?
Yeah, wow. That's the big change.
That's the big change. It's number one business. What do you think it is, kids? It's not what you think it is.
It's mice and keyboards.
Yeah, keyboards and mice.
With Copilot.
Do they still make keyboards and mice? I used to love my Microsoft mouse.
They got rid of they moved everything onto Surface, which I thought was stupid.
Yeah.
They signed up with a company. I can't think of.
There's another company,
hardware maker that's going to start selling the old Microsoft stuff.
Logitech keyboards. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I don't think it was Logitech. I can't remember, but they that's been delayed, so it's not happened yet. But hopefully, will because I want to stockpile all these things.
I did. I had like 8 or 9 of them. I'm down to the last few.
Yeah, I'm down. I have one here and one at home. I don't know what I'm going to do if this thing dies.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about that business, the big business.
The keyboard and mouse business.
The keyboard and mouse business in just a second. Paul Thurrott is here from Thurrott.com. His book's at leanpub.com. Richard Campbell has the week off. He's in Tunisia. Couldn't get a good connection. We're hoping he'll be back next week. But first, a word from Lookout, our sponsor for this segment. I've talked to you about Lookout before. Today, every company is in the business of managing data, right? That's whatever your business is, data is kind of the heart of it. But that means every company is at risk of data exposure and worse, data loss. Whether it's cyber breaches, cyber threats, it's leaks. The bad guys are growing more sophisticated every day, and modern breaches now happen like that, not over a period of time like months, days, months, years. At a time when the majority of sensitive corporate data is no longer, I'll say it, on-prem, but in the cloud, traditional boundaries no longer exist, and the strategies for securing that data have changed fundamentally, which is why it's great we've got Lookout. From the first phishing text to the final data grab, Lookout stops modern breaches as swiftly as they unfold. Oh, isn't that great? Whether on a device or in the cloud, across networks, heck, working remotely at the local coffee shop, Lookout gives you clear visibility into all your data at rest and in motion, wherever it is. You'll monitor, assess, and protect without sacrificing productivity for security. With this, you'll like this too. With a single unified cloud platform, Lookout simplifies and strengthens, makes it easy and straightforward, reimagining security for the world that will be today. Visit lookout.com right now to learn how to safeguard data, secure hybrid work, reduce IT complexity. That's lookout.com. Lookout, Lookout, lookout.com. We thank him so much for supporting Windows Weekly. The number one business division at Microsoft, AI.
Yeah, so it's business and productivity online services, which is Microsoft 365 and some other things, but Microsoft 365. And the reason they're number one is because the Windows commercial revenues moved from more personal computing into that business, so they got a nice bump. So I referenced this earlier. I'm sure I confused everybody. It was probably the wrong way to tell this story, but this morning I got up and I came across a thing in my feed about a Microsoft 365 change for consumers. And I forwarded it to Laurent, who does our news. And I said, if I'm reading this correctly, it says that Microsoft 365 paying customers get some kind of credits or tokens that they can use against Copilot services. And they're getting Designer. And that these things will be working in Windows 11 apps like Paint, Photos, and Notepad. And I'm like, but here's the thing. We already have most of that. So I stopped paying for Microsoft Copilot Pro because I can get Designer to do for free. I mean, I'm paying for a Microsoft 365 subscription to make those images, right? And it even supports widescreen formats and so forth. So I'm like, why would I pay another $20 a month? I just use the service. It's the same thing. It makes the same images, right? And he was confused by it as well. And then he kind of came back and he said, well, first of all, this isn't in the United States or Western Europe. It's Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, and Thailand. And I'm like, okay. So maybe this was something we got first and they're moving there. Great. That's fine. But what's this thing about Paint, Photos, and Notepad that doesn't make sense? And that's what they announced for the Insider program that was at the top of the show, that they're bringing new generative AI capabilities to those apps that are going to work against the cloud. And you can use your Copilot credits that you get every month as part of your subscription. I'm like, okay. So obviously this announcement went out too early because the other part of this that I didn't mention is they're also raising the prices on these subscriptions. And they're going to have a classic version that doesn't have any AI. Actually, I also didn't mention another part of it. So if you have Copilot Pro or Microsoft 365 Copilot, you get Copilot features in Word, Excel, OneNote, I don't know, whatever, some set of, the desktop apps, right? So starting with this change, the prices are going up. Consumers in those countries will gain access to those capabilities too. But again, with credits. So every month you'll be able to use so much of your credits and use these features. And if you run out, I guess you're done. You can't use those features anymore till the next month, or you could optionally pay for Copilot Pro. So it's kind of a nice way to advertise this other paid offering, I guess. I have been wondering about when Microsoft 365 Family and Personal, which today are the two consumer subscriptions, were going to go up in price. They have been $69/$99 forever. In fact, I don't remember the timing, but at some point, they added a user to the family one. So it stayed the $99 price, but now you can have 6 people on it, each with a terabyte of storage instead of 5. So if anything, it's just kind of gotten better. So I think that this is a preview of a coming price hike that consumers are going to get for Microsoft 365, just like the one we got on Xbox Game Pass, right? I mean, it's kind of inevitable. So yeah, there you go. And a look at how they're going to kind of position these AI features between like free stuff that's just in Windows and paid stuff that you get through your subscriptions, depending on which one or two you have. So interesting. So it was a little morning of confusion. It's like I was saying to Laura, I feel like I know a little bit about Windows. I'm not aware of AI features in Notepad. Am I missing something? And he said, nope, you're not. There are none. And then later in the day, they announced it in the Insider program. So because it's in the Insider program, and if I remember correctly now, Dev and Canary, these aren't coming to Windows 11 until, I don't know, the spring. So these people, I don't know what they're getting for now. I think this was a mistake. I don't think they meant to announce this. That's my gut feeling. But
that happens sometimes. You push the button prematurely.
Yep. So anyway, it's coming. And then you know more about this one than I do. But OpenAI for months. I remember back in May, they had that big event and like, here it comes, ChatGPT search. It's like, nope, we're going to do in realistic voices. We're doing, whatever. And then they just announced ChatGPT search. So obviously they're doing that. And I have not used it. So you're saying it's pretty good. Is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea, and this is what Google was worried about forever is that someday AI would come for them, and their big business. And I guess that's the theory. The problem right now is it's not easy to get to. So here is I'll go to my screen and pull up the. Let's see, where is it? It's in one of my tabs.
So you have how do you use this? This is like an app?
So you have to go to your ChatGPT interface. So it's not like, now I imagine their plan would somehow to incorporate it into the browser, maybe write a plugin.
Right.
But so when I do ChatGPT, I can either, here, let me refresh the page so I can show you what it looks like. No, that's not, I'm sorry, I have Mac fingers. Let's go back to, let's refresh, and you'll see it shows you an empty, it's going back to the previous thing. It shows you, normally would show you the chat interface. Well, here it is, I guess down at the bottom. You can kind of see it. So it says message ChatGPT, and then there's that I could type a normal, query.
Yeah, they need a UX expert. This is stupid. This is just, it's a little too minimalist.
How is Babby made? And then it will give me an answer. Mm-hmm. And and actually, that's pretty good. Now, I can also, so that was the normal chat, but I can also press the search button for that. And then it's going to, and the difference really is only that ChatGPT's training data is cut off at some point. I can't remember what it is.
So this shows you sources.
This is actually now hooked up to the web.
What's it using though for search? Is it Bing?
No, its own thing. It's hooked up. So basically what they've done is they've hooked ChatGPT up to sources that are, I think that are web. I don't think it's using Bing.
Okay, I know they're using, like Wall
so
Street
it's
Journal,
more up
for
to
example,
date.
partnered with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for you to read on this because I can't. Let me go back to the Mac and do chat. And so then I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Now you can see. So that's the search button.
Okay.
And this is the regular thing. So how many let's see, what's something current? Oh, I know. Who won?
Oh boy.
This is
who won the Mexico presidential election?
Yeah, that was recent, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. By the way, a woman, interestingly.
A woman,
won
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
See, then this one says, I may not have the latest updates.
Right.
So that's interesting. Did I use search for that, or did I maybe mistakenly? Let's see. Let's put that in search.
Yeah.
Make sure we do the search thing. I think I pressed the wrong button. Now let's see if it knows.
Wait.
What?
I think you gotta. There you go. Select it.
How do
It has to be highlighted like that.
Then we do it. Okay. Now searching the web. That's the same stupid result.
Okay.
It did give me on the right here actual results. Let's try who is the
So this is like a list of who they're partnering with, I guess.
Mexico.
Assume.
Let's see. This is now I'm doing so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this makes it search. Yeah. The UI is terrible.
Yep. No, it's horrific.
As of November 6th, 2024. So they do have up-to-date information.
Right.
So that's the difference, I guess. And then on the right here, we're seeing the citations, which I like because honestly, you want to, if it's hallucinating, you'd like to see, where'd you get that?
Right.
So President Scheinbaum.
Yep.
Who you know well because she was head of government of Mexico City for a long time. And so you probably hung out with her.
I was just telling a story about, I believe, this person last night. There's a little bit of graft involved, unfortunately. But yeah, anyway, it's nice. I guess
with her or just in general?
The whole her and the previous president, and not great.
Let's, you know what would be a nice amuse bouche, a little in between the courses, little sherbet to lighten a little palate cleanser, maybe some Xbox news.
Okay.
Please. I beg
so it's a new month, November.
Yes.
So we have a new round of Game Pass titles to talk about. Obviously, an incredibly long list of Activision Blizzard games to brag about.
Oh, no, you
if only.
lie. No, if only.
The good news is, though, we are getting Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024.
Yeah.
I find it weird that the thing they're highlighting the most is that this one lets you get out of the plane. It's like this time it's personal. I think the thing that's impressive about this one is that the graphics are incredible, right? It's nuts.
Well, and that's why whoa, sorry about that. That's why getting out of the plane.
I was like, I thought that happened in my room.
Yeah, whoa, my Xbox turned on. That's why getting out of the plane. It's not so much because it's cool to get out of the plane, but the fact that the reality is that granular that you can get right down next to it.
Yeah, it's supposed to look amazing. Oh, it does look. I mean, the videos I've seen of it look amazing, and they're doing a lot of offloading to Azure. Curiously,
interesting.
So that you don't have like a terabyte install, to get all those graphics. Because the way that works today is you get the better graphics of these world updates that they do, and they're just tens, hundreds of gigabytes each, depending on the one, and it adds up. So,
but are they rendering in the cloud, or is it just
supposedly? Yeah, that's what they said. So we'll see. I'm curious to try this. This is a hybrid model, right? So you're going to have a bunch of obviously the game on your device, Xbox or PC, but a bunch of it's going to come from the cloud too.
Wow.
So
you can do aerial.
I guess if you're in a submarine, you're kind of screwed. You can fly your own little paper airplane. That's all you get. But you need the.
So what do we get? Metal Slug Tactics. Go Mecha Ball.
The big one though is Goat Simulator Remastered.
That's a fun game. Don't knock Goat Simulator.
But I love that it's remastered. Because I need the goat to be as realistic as possible, using the graphics capabilities we have today.
And if you don't want to be a goat, you can be a halibut with Harold Halibut.
Be a halibut. Okay. One of the games is called Turnip Boy Robs a Bank.
You really feel like they're at the bottom of the barrel here.
I just don't know what's happening. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's no bigger spectrum than from Flight Simulator 2024 to Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. I don't think that's the spectrum.
But this is why I'm weird, because that's the game I would probably download.
Right.
I want to know more about Turnip Boy and this bank.
I don't know. By the way, it's not in the notes. I might have mentioned this a month ago or something. I've been talking to my son about this. I thought it was once a month, but apparently it might be as much as once a week. But Prime Gaming, if you're a Prime customer at Amazon, pay attention to that. They add free games to that thing at least every 2 weeks. I think it's every week. If you look at it just once a month, it's kind of incredible. And the games that you're getting, some of them are on Amazon, obviously, but some of them are on GOG, the Go Little Games service. Some of them are on Epic Games. Some of them are on Steam. And when you get games this way, they're yours. They're free forever. Once they're part of your account, they never go away. So if you play games on PC, you should know about that, because everyone kind of knows, like, Epic Games gives away a game or two every month or whatever it is. It's nice. Amazon gives away like dozens of games every month. It's hundreds maybe. It's crazy. Go look at that if you haven't.
Really? Where do I get that?
Look up, just Google or ChatGPT search Prime Gaming, and you'll see it there.
Is it their version of Game Pass?
No, it's just it's a perk of Prime, right? And so, with Amazon Prime, they're always trying to be like, look, you get all this stuff. It's not just like the physical thing where you get deliveries next day, second day, whatever.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of these digital perks, and
this isn't using their streaming service.
Nope. This is you like, go to the Doom one, for example. Like this is Doom.
You download it?
Yeah. You don't download it here. Here you're just adding it to your account. So you get the game. I don't know which service this is going to be through. I don't remember, but I got this, last month or something. It will,
have to activate Prime Gaming.
It puts it into. So this one is actually from Amazon, I guess. So now it's in your Amazon account, if that's where it is.
Oh no, I get a code.
Yeah, that you can. Okay, so this goes to one of the other services I mentioned.
Okay. So, wow. And then it's mine forever?
It's yours forever. Yep. It's just
what
in your account.
What?
I know. I don't know why no one is talking about this. There's an incredible collection of games there right now, and they're not there forever. So, like, that Doom game's been there for 4 weeks, whatever it is. It's going to go away eventually. Just look at this every week or two. It's crazy.
Copy code, and then where do I use the code?
It should go
what
to
do I do next? From the Microsoft Store to claim the game, open Windows 11, search for Microsoft Store.
Okay.
So it's the store version.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's awesome.
No, it's incredible. But it goes across all those services. I forgot the Microsoft Store. So, which is, the Xbox app on Windows or whatever. Yeah, it's nuts.
What?
Yep.
I never
Really nice.
heard of this.
I know. I don't know why no one talks about it.
Oh,
Like the
look, BioShock
collection.
Remastered.
I know. It's nuts.
I want to get that.
Yeah, so see where that one is. Does it also get a code or something
Let's
else?
see. It's
This
a
is
code.
going to go to a site, right? Yeah, so you're going to
and
go
you redeem
to
it.
at GOG or Epic probably or Steam.
Yeah, GOG, good old
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, so you have to have the account and all those.
But you're these stairs. See, now, do you click like the top of, where this isn't really a stair here?
I know.
But do you click that?
My favorite one is where you click a bunch and hit enter, that it adds more. And you're like, guys, can we just agree that I'm on
I feel
my
like this
computer
is helping
and
Google
seriously?
in their AI ambitions just a little too much.
Let's
Let's see. Nope, didn't get it right.
Didn't get it right.
Didn't get it right. So there's a hydrant. That one's easy. Does this corner
What about
count?
that little? I would. Yep. I would
Yay!
say so.
I've got BioShock Remastered. Free.
Yeah, so you get a site, you'll click through, it'll go to GOG and you just sign in. And there it is.
It's kind of sad that the most important thing I learned today on Windows Weekly was how to get free games on Amazon.
They're Windows games.
Yeah, good point.
Right? That's the point. They are Windows games. That's why I
That
mentioned it.
counts.
They're free. You can't be free. Well, maybe it could be free. I don't know. They could pay you to play it, I guess. I don't know. So
That is.
I know it's crazy. My son and I text back. I was like, I can't believe this. I know it's like, just get it. Who cares? Like, it's crazy.
So, of course, the snark in the Discord, Harold Finch says, Prime Game Redeems is hardly news unless you are Leo. So
It was news to me. I don't know. Okay,
Or
sorry.
Leo
I'm
and
sorry. I'm
Paul.
not as connected to the whole internet as everyone. I just like. My point was, if you didn't know about this, you should know about this. It's pretty freaking good. So
yeah, that's great.
it's crazy, especially if you haven't looked at it yet. Like when you go through the collection, you're going to be like, oh my god, you're going to find like 10 of them. You know?
I could play that game again.
Yeah.
I loved BioShock.
I don't remember how I came across this. Maybe they finally sent an email like to customers or something. I don't remember, but I'm like, okay, I'll look at this. And it was like, yikes. Like the first day I did it, I think I added 12 or 15 games, across multiple accounts, whatever. Wow. It's good. Yes, it's less crazy if you're not paying for Prime. Thank you. Anyway, I feel like I qualified it properly. Anyway, okay. To bring it back, the other Xbox story is Microsoft announced through the Xbox Insider program an AI-powered support, like a virtual support agent. I don't know. Everyone, PC makers are starting to do this. HP and that laptop I reviewed of course, they have their own AI companion because obviously the future of computing is like chat interfaces. But I do feel like there is an AI function that could be pretty good for solving problems with whatever it is, maybe your console, a PC, whatever. I think that might not be so horrible. But it's not something I'm personally excited to test. So I don't really, whatever. Anyway, you can test that if you want, or if you're an Xbox insider. It's not very exciting if you don't have an Xbox. Yes. Thank you. Sorry. I don't know what. Okay. And then Nintendo also announced their earnings. I put this back here because it's video game related. But the big thing to me is that they had to scale back their predictions for how many Switches they're going to sell through the end of their fiscal year, which ends at the end of March. Not too far back, just by 1 million units. And if they hit their target by, whatever that is, 6 months from today, I guess, the Switch will become their best-selling hardware device of all time, outselling the DS. Yeah,
not surprising.
And, yeah, I mean, this thing has done pretty well. Since then, I didn't link to it, I guess, but they've also said that whatever the next thing is, they will announce that before the end of the fiscal year. My guess is they don't want to announce it now because the holidays are coming up, and that might screw up sales further. And they do want to hit that target, right? But probably in January 1 or something, they'll announce the next thing, and it will be backwards compatible with Switch. So if you have this library of software, it's going to work on the next one.
I will almost certainly be.
So it says Windows Weekly isn't very exciting if you don't have a PC. Fair enough. I mean, I will now qualify everything I say that way. I think that's fine.
It's true. It's true. Although I'm running, you know what? That's not true because I'm running Windows on my Mac.
The simplest way to say it is, if this topic is not of interest to you, this story will not be interesting to you. I think it's, yes, fair enough. It's like anything is intuitive if you already know how to do it.
Right.
Fair enough. So we didn't write this one up either, but Sony the reviews have come out for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and most of them are pretty meh in the sense that it's not a dramatic improvement in quality.
And it's expensive, right?
And it's super expensive, $700. You pay extra for the drive if you want that.
It's $700 without a drive.
Without a drive. Although, you know what? To be clear, they mean an optical drive. I don't.
Oh, you have storage.
Yeah, I'm at the point where not having an optical drive is actually
desirable. I don't need an optical drive. Yeah, no.
But yeah, it's very
Who
expensive.
goes to the GameStop anymore?
Instead of the size of like a truck, it's the size of a car. It's still pretty big. It's a weird shape, so it's hard to fit it in.
Is it the
with
same
stuff.
design? It looks the
same basic design. Yeah.
What's pro about it? Bigger processor?
It does more games consistently, 4K, 60, basically. It does upscaling.
Okay.
Too nice. Yeah.
I know you're reading the Discord.
I know. I'm getting distracted. Anyone for the 3 minutes I will play Call of Duty today. If you want to get in the game and teabag me, I completely. I'm not saying I live for it, but I would understand it. It's okay. Look, at least these guys are doing the pro thing. I mean, Microsoft is kind of treading water here. We discussed possible.
I always feel like these pro releases or these secondary releases are really just trying to stretch out the lifespan of a console.
That's 100% true. But, for people who are fans of the platform and can afford it, I mean, there are probably people who have upgraded straight through. Now, this generation's been different, Sony and Microsoft. Microsoft released 2 different versions from a performance graphics capability perspective immediately at the same time. Sony released 2 versions, one with optical, one without at the same time. So now Sony has a better graphical version, which is probably above everything we see on the Xbox side.
So it has 2 terabytes.
Different.
It has plenty of storage.
Yeah. Well, you need it because you get for all those graphics textures, right? You're going to be a lot of resources there. But yeah, I think, it's expensive. It is interesting to me that Sony being expensive this generation hasn't hurt it. Yeah, back in the PS3, Xbox 360 days, it being expensive was a really big problem.
Right.
That I guess
Microsoft
hasn't been the case.
Although it was $100 more.
Then again, they're on track to have the speed of worst selling PlayStation of all time. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not doing the right thing. I don't know. But yeah, they are expensive.
I'm curious. So our son is Michael's a PS5 guy. I'm
do you make him sleep like in a separate building in the yard?
He does. He's literally sitting in a separate building.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if he's going to. Now he's spending his own money at this point. If he's going to.
I mean, what happens? Like, what could be next? Right? We know Nintendo is overdue for a refresh, a new console. I mean, Xbox, Sony.
An OLED screen on the Switch. So I don't know what.
Yeah, but they never did even 4K. Do they even do? Is it 1080p?
It's 1080p.
I guess it might be. Yeah.
On an OLED screen, which is fine on a screen that size. It's this big.
Yeah.
That's
I'm sure
plenty.
It's great. Right.
I don't know. You're right. I've asked this question years ago. Is it the end of the line for console gaming?
I mean, 8K, like actual 8K. I mean, Sony was advertising that for a while.
Yeah, but what are you going to play it on?
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't. I know it's not why, but it's one of the reasons why maybe Microsoft's approach to go multi-screen makes some sense. Where do you go next?
Jeff makes a really good point in our YouTube chat. He says, where are the games? Because if you don't have games that are like, I got to get this, I got to play this.
I mean, I think that the GOAT remastered thing kind of speaks to that.
Or Turnip Boy,
Turnip Boy robs the bank. It's beautiful. That's really funny.
All right, let's take a break. We have the back of the book still to come. Paul Thurrott will be doing his tips, his picks, and the usual. We are still going to do a Run As Radio, and I have a Brown Liquor movie pick.
That's crazy.
Coming up. It is.
Is it a documentary or like a movie?
No, it's a fictional.
Wow.
It's one of the great films of all time, but it's pretty old. So I don't know if
there's a new movie about guys who decide that I think it's like Danish maybe,
To
that
drink
Mads
whiskey?
guy that was in.
Oh yeah, I like Mads. Yeah.
He looked this up because I'll look it up. There's a fairly recent movie where like this group of friends, like they're like, we're just going to be drunk all day long and go about our lives, and like this is supposed to be like
What,
a better
Kevin?
approach.
Another round.
Another round.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but it
Sounds
it's an
awful. Who
it's
would
an
go
amusing
see a
premise.
movie about a bunch of guys day drinking? I mean, I did see Hangover, but that was more
If
about
you
the
like this kind of
aftermath.
movie, you might like this movie. That's all I'm saying.
And I believe Hangover involved roofies, but I might be wrong on that.
Right.
Well, it did come out
all
in
right.
2020, so
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Times have changed. Yeah, in those days, because of COVID, sitting around the house getting drunk all day seemed pretty good.
Seemed like maybe it was a solution to a problem, not a
Highlight.
problem. Looking in search of a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this program today, this Windows Weekly episode brought to you by ThreatLocker. Love these guys, and I love the concept. You've heard us talk about zero trust. This is a brilliant way of doing security. I think it was I first heard about it. Google was doing it. Idea being, yeah, you have great perimeter defenses, but you know what keeps me up at night? The idea that somebody might get inside and then they've got full power, full trust, right? If zero-day exploits and supply chain attacks are worrying you, worry no more. You can harden your security with ThreatLocker. Worldwide, companies like JetBlue trust ThreatLocker to secure their data and keep their business operations flying high, if you will. So this is what's so cool about it. Imagine taking a proactive, and this is the key, deny by default approach to cybersecurity. That means every action, every process, every end user is blocked unless authorized by your team. Even if you're inside the network, you can't do anything without authorization. But ThreatLocker makes it easy to do this, and in addition, provides a full audit of every action. So you've got risk management and compliance handled. You know exactly, you've got a paper trail. Their 24/7 US-based support team will make this all simple, I promise. They fully support onboarding and beyond if you have any questions. Stop the exploitation of trusted apps within your organization. Keep your business secure and protected from ransomware. I mean, the uses of this are infinite. And you'll love ThreatLocker's ring fencing. Organizations across any industry can benefit from ThreatLocker's ring fencing. It limits attackers' lateral movement within the network. They can be inside, but they can't do anything. ThreatLocker's ring fencing works so well, it was able to foil a number of attacks that were not stopped by traditional EDR, and the best example, the SolarWinds Orion attack, stopped cold by ring fencing. ThreatLocker works for Macs too, so your network is safe. And there are many tiers, and it's very affordable. Get unprecedented visibility and control of your cybersecurity quickly, easily, and cost-effectively. ThreatLocker's Zero Trust Endpoint Protection platform offers a unified approach to protecting users, devices, and networks against the exploitation of zero-day vulnerabilities. Just check out the reviews. People love ThreatLocker, and I'm not surprised. Get a free 30-day trial. Find out more how ThreatLocker can help mitigate unknown threats before they bite. ThreatLocker is truly amazing. I can't recommend it more highly. For more information about ThreatLocker, it's very simple. Go to the website, threatlocker.com. Learn how ThreatLocker can mitigate unknown threats and ensure compliance. The paper trail's great. Threatlocker.com. Thank you, ThreatLocker, for your support for Windows Weekly, and Paul Thurrott, who is now going to deliver his tip of the week.
Yes. And it's not about throwing security to the wind, although it's going to sound like that for a second. My wife and I got some feedback on our YouTube channel, which is about Mexico City. And I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but he said, I appreciate you promoting intestinal problems, but or something like that. Like, I don't, what? Huh? What are we doing?
Is this your Eternal Spring channel?
Yeah. Like, in other words, like we were like, street food is safe to eat. And he's like, oh, yeah, if you want to get sick, it's safe to eat. It's like, have you ever had street food?
No, the street food. Are you kidding?
Perfectly safe.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I don't know if you live in the United States, you get sicker eating at McDonald's. Just say,
The street food in Mexico. I don't know what Mexico City's like, but
it's unbelievable.
It's got to be amazing. Yeah.
And it's so inexpensive.
I don't think I've ever gotten
struggle
sick
with
in Mexico, ever.
The exchange rate thing a lot, and because the number's really big, and then you do the math, you're like, no, that can't be that small, and it is. It's stupid.
Well, that's why I like the 20-1 because then it's a nickel. A peso is a nickel.
Yeah,
it's easy to remember. When it goes to 17 cents,
I don't know.
It's not good. I can't do the math.
So look, in my role, I write the Windows 11 field guide, for example. I'm trying to give advice to people who, by and large, are normal users. They're not highly technical. And one of the things I've been talking about probably since it's been a thing, which I guess, I don't know, Windows 8, certainly Windows 10 on, has been, most people are better off signing into Windows with their Microsoft account. And you get some pushback from that, but if you're technical enough to push back on that, then you don't listen to that kind of advice. Don't worry about it. In recent years, of course, they've been making it harder and harder not to do that, right? They've gotten rid of the UI that lets you sign into a local account. They've made it hard, right? And there's little strategies and workarounds for that kind of thing. But there was this note I saw with Windows 11 24H2 that I didn't understand because to my knowledge, this was already happening, which was that when you install Windows 24H2, or if you get a new PC with 24H2, the disk is automatically encrypted.
Right, as it should be.
Yeah, but it already is. Like, I didn't understand, where does that come from, right?
Oh,
so like,
it's not
what's
BitLocker.
The point of that?
I see.
And the point is that if you get a new PC or you reset a PC and setup comes up and it says sign into your Microsoft account, and you do. Once you do that, it encrypts the disk. And it does that because it can store the recovery key in OneDrive so you can get to it from a different device. That's the thing that's missing when you encrypt. You must acquit. No, when you encrypt the disk, you have to have a way to recover it, right? If something goes wrong. And I was curious, like, what does that look like? And so I did a couple of, for the book, I had to update it for 24H2 anyway. So I had to see which workarounds still work. So you do a clean install of Windows. So you get a new computer. You want to bypass the block and settings that prevents you from using a local account. Does it encrypt the disk? Like, how could it? It can't back up that recovery key. Like, how does it do it? So it turns out it sort of encrypts the disk, but it doesn't fully encrypt the disk until you let it save a recovery key. So you actually have to go into settings and say, I'd like to fully, activate the encryption, if you will, is the term. And then it says, okay, but now you have to save this recovery key, and you can't save it to the disk, right? Because it could be, it's on the disk that you might not be able to get into later. So you have to save it to a file and put it off site, email it, whatever, just get it off the disk. And that is a little bit of a change, but that made me wonder, that's kind of interesting. So does that mean that one of the main reasons to use a Microsoft account doesn't apply anymore? And if you don't care about all the pass-through stuff I talked about earlier with Passkeys and everything, if you don't care that your Microsoft account will automatically pass through the Microsoft Store app or to the Outlook app or to OneDrive or whatever it might be, is there a way to do this as securely, or at least securely enough, if you will, where you don't have to use a Microsoft account? And if you did that, could you configure Windows in such a way that a lot of that enshrification stuff I'm so concerned about would not happen? In other words, it wouldn't badger you to enable folder backup in OneDrive or whatever. And so I did a bunch of different tests to do this, and I mostly successful. Local account sign-ins, perpetual version of Office instead of Microsoft 365 subscription or the Microsoft 365 subscription. Sign into just the apps you're going to use. So you still get, it's not pass-through, but you still, well, it is pass-through. You still associate, the account is still registered in the system, but it's not the sign-in account. You apply a strong password. You use a PIN, and then you add Windows Hello, facial, or fingerprint recognition.
Now you're secure. Absolutely
you're secure. Technically not, you don't have every single security protection that you have with a Microsoft account. For example,
your biggest lack is
2FA.
You can't forget your password, right? They're not
right. There's no 2FA. There's no account recovery.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
That's the biggest loss.
That's the big one. But if you're a technical user, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this, unless you somehow really ended up in the wrong place and you were expecting Martha Stewart or something, you probably are.
Martha Stewart on Windows is a hell of a good podcast.
You know she's a Mac user. I mean, you can tell. I think there's something interesting here. So I'm going to keep going down this path. Mostly not because of the security element. That's the thing I didn't want to highlight too much. Because you can secure that account. That you can encrypt the disk. You can do all the right things. The thing for me is, how far do you go into the Microsoft MSA hole before it starts nagging you? You know? So I've done 2 physical computer installs slightly differently. One with perpetual Office license, one with Microsoft 365. And so far, not that this is scientific, but neither one of them has badgered me, even though I'm using OneDrive in both. So I like that.
That's the concern, right? Is that somehow Microsoft's going to get you because you didn't use a Microsoft account.
Well, they're going to just start being them again. You know, they're going to start ruining it. You know, just be, you know. And so far, it's kind of this is interesting to me, and this raises the specter of I speak to a mainstream audience as well, especially in the book. Can I recommend this to people?
Right.
If that's
the question.
Certification stuff is a problem?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm maybe. So.
That's the question.
Yep. Anyway, if anyone is doing this,
are you doing it? Do you do it? I mean, you've done a couple, but
I just started doing it, so I don't normally know. I always sign up with a Microsoft account. So
yeah.
Honestly, the experience isn't that different. It's just that I don't get passionate to use folder backup. So I kind of like that from Office or Windows, right? There's 2 parts to the badgering, right? If you use Microsoft Word that you get through Microsoft 365, you're in Windows 11, you're not using folder backup. Actually, it doesn't matter if you are or not. If your default save is to an outside of OneDrive location, it will badge you every single time you use the app with a yellow bar across the top. It's really irritating. But the version I get with Perpetual Office or 2024 or my Microsoft 365 account, but I've signed in with a local account, it doesn't badger me. I'm fascinated by this. So,
well, now I have to buy a Windows PC so I can try this.
Yeah, just hold on to that Copilot Plus PC, hack into it so you don't have a
No, I think the Snapdragon Dev Kit you should have that. Unless you don't want it.
No, I do want. I will literally use it every day. You could do this on any computer. I mean, you could do this.
Maybe I'll get the HP. Is it the Omen?
No, it's the OmniBook Ultra. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of configurations. The upgrade to the best processor, best graphics is possibly $30. I mean, it's not expensive. It's worth getting.
Sounds like it's worth it.
Yeah.
So the OmniBook is kind of their consumer, isn't it?
Yeah, the way they rebranded their product lines this year. So anything that starts Omni is consumer, Elite is business.
Right.
Book is laptop, right? Ultra is the top of the line from the model perspective. So it's like Ultra X. And then I think
they have gaming
below that
with the Omen.
Well, yeah, that's outside of that, but yeah. Yeah, gaming is outside.
So which one did you like?
It's called OmniBook Ultra.
Ultra, not X, because that's Snapdragon.
No.
There it is. The Ultra. Okay.
This is the AMD Ryzen 9 AI.
Yeah.
HX
$999.
Yep.
But then I can upgrade
do the upgrade.
it.
Like you can configure it.
Should I get Pro? We're getting to this. We're getting into. Paul tells Leo what buttons to click. Realm. Maybe I'll stop now.
I wouldn't. My advice is not to get it through HP. There are cheaper ways.
Get it at Best Buy.
Yeah. Or no, I mean just online. Like there are places that sell keys, basically.
Okay. Because the price is better.
Way better. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. I'm not going to get it. I'm messing with you. I'm not going
not to do that. But all I can promise you is it's something I'm going to spend a lot of time on now. And
I think it's
as I do new PCs over, I'm going to do this and see if
it's not hard. You used to have to jump through hoops to do this. Is that not the case anymore?
No, you still have to jump to. you still have to jump through hoops to configure it out of the box with a local account, but you can do it right from setup.
By turning off internet or what? I mean,
it's in my book, Leo. If you would, no, it is in the book, but there used to be several ways to do it. One of the easiest ways is to make the install media. Well, you wouldn't do this on a new computer. So on a new computer, there's a keyboard thing, and you go back and there's no internet, and you just do that. If you have your own computer and you want to reset it and you don't care about getting the stuff that the computer comes with, you can use Rufus. We'll work around that, create install media that doesn't.
So there's install media that doesn't require.
Yeah, it turns off the switches and setup so that you can do whatever you want. Yeah. It bypasses all the hardware.
Oh, Rufus does that. Yeah, I remember that. They still do that. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. Look, I think that's how people should do it.
But it's a hard thing to say to a normal person. Like, all right, so you got to do a little bit of it's going to seem hacky. It's a little weird. It's but you can do it. It works. And Microsoft has cut back on the methods that work. But there's that people have done the command line thing. It's that ubi/bypass NRO still works. You just have to make sure you don't connect to the internet over Ethernet or whatever it might be, and then you can get through it.
So this is hands-on Windows for this week. So everybody should watch this week's hands-on.
I think
Windows.
I did it.
It is.
I think I did do one. Oh, you're saying it literally came out this week. That's
week.
fascinating. Okay,
because you do them ahead of time.
Advance. Right. Okay.
So it's this week's hands-on Windows.
I thought you were saying you should do it for this week. Okay. Right.
It's on the Twit Plus feed, or you go to twit.tv. Is it twit.tv/how? I think it is. It's also in your book, which you can get from leanpub.com, the field guide to Windows 11. Is there an article on Thurrott.com?
Yeah, it's a premium article. So if you're a premium member, you get all the content from the book for as part of the subscription. Premium. So it's in there.
Oh, really? I don't need the book if I have the premium.
Yeah, if you want just the web versions. So every time I update it, I update the web version too, so they're always together.
I've been a premium member since you started it.
Yeah,
long as I can remember.
I used to have a list, so now it's just like, all right, just do this. There's this one thing that always works. It's fine.
Certainly, I feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah,
I understand you're worried
that's
about
the point.
mom
I'm
and
not
pop.
going to tell my wife to do this. Here's an idea: log in with a local account. She doesn't care.
That's the thing. If somebody knows that there is such a thing or wants to do it, then it's appropriate for them.
Right.
I would say. And if they don't know and don't care, then don't just let Windows be Windows.
Yeah, just accept the warm embrace of the Matrix. You'll be fine.
Let's talk about your app pick of the week, Thur.
Yeah, so I mentioned Proton VPN earlier in the show. There's also been an update to Proton Drive. They have a Docs solution that's like Google Docs, right? And now they have
do
kind
everything now. That's
amazing. They're expanding. It's nice.
Yeah.
Their Docs app now supports a track changes feature that they call suggestions, which is our suggesting, I think. But it's the way they bill it is we're the only end-to-end encrypted cloud service that offers track changes, right? Works inside and outside of your organization, or if you're an individual, works with people external to your account. So, it works, it just works the way you would expect. They're just kind of building it out. So, this is not something I actually use yet. Like I said, I'm kind of baby stepping into this, but I am kind of curious about this because I like Proton a lot. I think that's obvious. I kind of mentioned them a lot, but I like their whole approach to things, and it's hard to argue, with what they're trying to do. So it's something to know about. I don't think many people know that Docs even exists.
It's so funny because I have a Proton everything account, and I just don't ever use it. I mean, I got it so I could try it, like you. I try it, look at it, and I just never use it. But now I'm thinking I should really take advantage of it. I'm paying for it. Let's, I know Richard's not here, but I think if Richard were here, he would certainly mention that the fact that the next Run As radio show features Aidan Finn talking about software.
Good friend, by the way.
Yep. Does he work for Microsoft? He does Microsoft training.
No, he's on Microsoft, outside of Microsoft, but he's an supporting Microsoft customers. Yeah.
Software-defined networking. How does that work in Azure? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's usual.
He also did Run As Radio. They did one about Blazor, which is that .NET Web Tech in .NET 9. Also worth listening to.
Yeah, Richard does 2 shows, Run His Radio and .NET Rocks with Carl Franklin, and they're both well worth listening to, as always. And I know Richard be talking about Aiden Finn and this episode.
Look at that, because that looks suspiciously like someone I know there.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah,
he's kind of a blob.
Yeah.
Now, Richard's not here to do a whiskey thing. I'm sad to report. He's in Tunisia. I'm hoping he'll be back next week, and maybe he'll do 2 whiskeys.
He is back, yeah.
You know, I don't know if there is any such thing as Tunisian whiskey.
Yeah.
But I am going
more of a hookah thing, probably.
I'm going to recommend a movie about whiskey. Is that okay?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my aunt brought me to a screening of a movie from Ealing Studios, this old British studio, called Tight Little Island. And the fun thing about Tight Little Island is it's a true story about a U.S. cargo ship filled with whiskey that ran aground off this Scottish island. But what's funny is the island had run out of whiskey. And the ship was full of whiskey.
Right.
This is a very funny movie. The original title was Tight Little Island. They've renamed it Whiskey Galore. It is available on Apple TV.
I've never heard of this.
It is a hysterical, fun, great movie, especially the scramble to get all the whiskey off the rocks. Whiskey Galore. Wow. Tight Little Island. It's a very old movie. I think it comes from 1940. It says 40. No, I'm sorry. Oh, it's not that old. 1949. It looks like it comes from 1930, but I guess
it looks. This looks like King Kong era.
It does, doesn't it? 1949. I remember my aunt taking me to this because it was one of her favorite movies, and it was one of those kind of weird midnight screenings or something.
Yeah.
You know, it was like not even a movie theater.
See, this is more appropriate for a child. How old were you?
I was maybe 12.
Yeah, my father took me to see Excalibur, and I was scarred for life. It was like my mother didn't want to go to these like scary R-rated movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So he would take me.
This was just fun. This is a movie kids could enjoy, but adults maybe get a little more out of it, understanding what it would be like to be on a little island with no whiskey. And it's a true story too. A freighter runs up on the ground with 50,000 cases of whiskey.
Were they bringing it to the island to save them from
no,
this?
I think it was just
it just happened to be going by.
Just happened to be going by.
I think there's more to the story. I think someone got underneath it and was like, popped a hole in it or whatever.
Could be. It's I think if you look it up on Wikipedia, there is quite a bit of lore around it, and it is apparently a true story. So, yeah, I wonder what really happened. It's on Wikipedia as Whiskey Galore. So maybe that's the original title. But I remember seeing it as Tight Little Island.
I don't even recognize Bruce. No, I don't recognize these companies' actors either. This is very strange.
You might recognize Ealing Studios. That was a English movie studio that did a lot of Alec Guinness movies and some fun movies. The story is based on the running aground of the SS Politician off an island. The island had run out of whiskey because of wartime rationing. The weather was so poor over production that its 10-week schedule ran over by 5 weeks. That's crazy. It's a Scottish movie, and I'm Scot, and maybe that's why my aunt brought me. I don't know, but I will. It's a wonderful. Yeah, the man in the white suit from Ealing, Lavender Hill Mob. That's right. Kevin Brewer knows all of these movies. The original title was Tight Little Island.
I think there's a version they could make of, during the pandemic. Pennsylvania was the only state in the United States that decided to shut all the liquor stores down.
Oh, and, my God.
Maybe like a plane with whiskey flying overhead could have crashed in the Lehigh Valley.
Apparently there was a remake of it. Now I'm seeing on IMDb there was a remake. Don't get the 2016 version. Get the 1949 Ealing
What's
Studios.
that one rated, though? The one you recommended was 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, it's a classic.
Very rare.
Yeah. It's a classic, and I don't think many people have heard of it. Yes, it got remade as Whiskey Galore. But don't, no, I don't. Well, you know what? See the original first, I guess is all I'm saying. The 2016 movie. I don't know. That is it. Actually, it doesn't have very good ratings on IMDb.
The new one doesn't?
No, the new one doesn't. Get the old one. That's the classic. And maybe you'll start getting into Ealing Studios movies, which are all amazing, amazing movies. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the lack of Richard Campbell and whiskey, we've survived the length of this show, the breadth and the girth. With Mr. Paul Thurrott.
I always think of, do you remember Douglas Adams, obviously the author of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Like a lot of people that are writers or comedians or actor, whatever, really into technology, he had at the end of his life, had a blog. He would blog about technology. And I remember after he passed away, the guy who was his personal assistant blogged for a little while on his account. And he talked about, at the time it was Mac OS X Tiger. And he said, he would have got Tiger. He would have really enjoyed Tiger. I feel bad that he wasn't around to see this. And that's kind of how I feel about Richard not being here. It's like Richard would have enjoyed some stuff. Richard would have enjoyed this conversation. Richard would have got this.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
but he's not dead.
It kind of reminds me of that.
He's still with us. He's just in Tunisia, and he will be back next week. We do the show every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. You can watch us live on 8 different streams. Club members get to watch in Discord, which isn't necessarily a benefit.
Can you do them all at the same time?
You could have them all on. They'd all be at somewhere different on the show. It'd be like being in a clock shop at midnight. It'd be kind of cuckoo.
Right.
But who knows? I don't know. Has anybody ever done that? So you'd have to tune in Discord, be a club member first, $7 a month, ad-free versions of all the shows. Please join. Discord, youtube.com/twit/live, twitch.tv/twit. We're also on x.com, as long as Elon doesn't kick us off for being Democrats.
Jeez. I'm a registered independent. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. That's good. See? Elon, he could stay. We're also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Kick, and TikTok. So we're really everywhere.
Reaching the kids.
Yeah, for the kids. 880 people watching us right now.
I think we should be dumping our water buckets on our heads or something. I haven't figured out TikTok yet, but I think it's something like that.
The Ice Bucket Challenge was a few years ago, Paul. But if you want to do the Harlem Shuffle, it's okay. You can get up on your desk, dance around. We'll find something for you to do on TikTok. Anyway, if you don't want to watch those streams, you can get the show on the website, twit.tv/WW. Paul also carries the audio version on his side. Or do you put video on your side?
I just link to it. I link to the,
Okay.
I don't host it or anything.
No, you shouldn't, because we do. That's our job.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Want people to know it's there.
Yeah. Audio and video available on the website. There's a link on that website to our YouTube channel, which is a great way to share little pieces of it. Like if your aunt doesn't know that Amazon Prime has games,
or that you could sign into Windows with a local account, this would be the ideal way to tell her about that.
Just clip that and send it off. Or maybe she'll be like,
"Who is this? Who sent me this?"
Well, why is this here? There's also a RSS feed, so you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client, audio or video. Either way, please. Watch every week because we love having you. If you're not a club member, support the show by joining. $7 a month, ad-free versions of all the shows. You also get access to a Twit Plus feed, which has special stuff. We only do, at special times. For instance, we just did last week Chris Marquardt's photo review. We did a coffee thing. I think you'd enjoy this. I know you're a coffee lover, Paul. We have a kind of an occasional coffee show we do with Mark Prince, the coffee geek. The next one we're going to do, and I'll let you know when we do it, is a tasting. So we had last time we had the woman who runs Beans, which is a subscription coffee bean service, and she's going to put together
with a
tasting.
Z?
With a Z, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah. She's going to put together a little 5-bean set that everybody can get.
5-bean tasting.
5-bean tasting.
Well,
there's more than 5 beans. 5 varietals, and
Yes.
we'll do a little tasting. That should be a lot of fun. We'll let you know about that. The Stacy's Book Club. There's all sorts of good events going on inside the club. I'm thinking about bringing back a little call-in radio thing because I
Yeah, I'm actually surprised you don't do that.
it's a technology thing.
Yeah.
But I found, I think, something called Call-In Studio, and I even have a number. And it's just a matter of getting all the details worked out, but it would allow us to take phone calls, and then I might start doing a little kind of
that's
tech
good.
guy-like show. I really enjoyed doing that. I miss doing that. Anyway, lots of reasons to be in the club. For all of that and more, go to twit.tv/clubtwit or scan the QR code in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Paul Thurrott lives at thurrott.com. That is, become a premium member. And then you get the book and all sorts of additional content, including how to sign up for an MSA, a Microsoft Windows account without MSA.
I'm still, it's like, it feels weird. I'm still working through
Paul.
it.
This is what people want.
Yeah.
They want freedom. Do it. It's your chance to show them the way. You can also get his books at leanpub.com. Richard Campbell, when he's here, is also on.
Yeah, when he
Run His
bothers
Radio.
to show up.
He bothers to show up. I hope he's having a good time in Tunisia. I don't know what happens in Tunisia.
Everything I know about Tunisia, I wrote in a 7th grade paper.
Well, you know
It's
more
not
than I
much, and then had to retain since then. I know where it is geographically.
do. It's in Africa, right? It's in North
right
Africa.
at the northern coast, like basic middle of the
Right.
country.
I've been to Morocco, right next door.
Yeah, that's close.
The greater metropolitan area of Tunis
Tunis.
is often referred to as Grand Tunis. There you go.
That's like when I start referring to.
They don't
Lower
want you to call
Macungie
it Greater
as Grand
Tunis.
Macungie.
That's all I can say. It's in the Maghreb. Anyway, I hope he's having a good time. I'm sure he is. Yeah. And he will be back. Maybe he's traversing the Grand Avenue Habib Bourguiba, which is often referred to as the Tunisian Champs-Élysées.
I wonder if I hope they refer to him as the Desert Fox.
Actually, I'm very interested because wasn't he going to go to Carthage, visit Carthage?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
I
That's
think that will be interesting.
Older than my Desert Fox reference, but yes, yes, that is there.
Hey, we cover all the ages. Thank you, Mr. Paul Thurrott. So good to have you.
You too.
Appreciate
Thank you.
your time today, and we will see you next week right here, all of you winners and dozers on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.